Speak about what?
But you didn't see none of that.
That's where I'm headed tomorrow.
Hey, Tim, just so you know, I'm gonna move this TDC thing to the front of the meeting. That's gonna be the first thing. Yeah. We're gonna call this meeting to order. At this time, we're gonna ask Commissioner Williams if he would do a prayer and say the national anthem.
Sing the national anthem.
Say.
Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, once again, dear Lord, we thank you for this day and the blessing you have shared on each and every one of us gathered here today. Father, we ask you again, plead for you to look after America and the world from the pandemic that we are living in. As I said before, that you have the whole world in your hand and you know what we are going through. But we thank you for your son, Jesus Christ, that was born in Bethlehem and was crucified in Jerusalem. Buried, third day he arose from the dead, seated at the right hand of the Father Almighty, from where he come to judge the quick and the dead. Now, Father, look after our armed forces that they serve around this world to give us this opportunity to be able to hold a public meeting and represent the constituents of this county. But Father, most of all, we want you to have mercy on us. Hold us in the palm of thy hand, dear Father. Let us make the decision that we feel is best for the majority of Columbia counties. Yet we know your son couldn't please everyone in this world, so neither can we when we make our decisions. These and all other blessings we ask in thy son's name, Jesus Christ, amen.
Amen. Amen.
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We're gonna get a report from our health department, Mr. Tom Moffitt, at this time. If you come on up, Tom.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Wanted to give you a quick update, and I appreciate the opportunity just to come stand before you again. During the pandemic, we've had to deal with a lot of things, and right now, you know that we're dealing with vaccination. So let me first touch on current positivity rate in Columbia County. If you remember, I told you I'm tracking the total numbers over a 7-day period. That gives me a good gauge of whether we're going up, down, whether we have an issue. So since the Thanksgiving Christmas period where we were hovering around 300 over a 7-day period, we're down to right at 170 right now over a 7-day period. And we've seen that slowly drop, and we're hoping that that will continue to drop. So we're continuing to have to investigate multiple cases every day, and that does take up a lot of time and resources, but it does impact schools, it impacts work when we have to contact trace and send people home to quarantine. So we're going to continue to do that as directed. On the vaccination front, so I've stood before you and told you that we were at the mercy of the vaccine as it comes in, and that I assured you that as it came in, it would go out. So as of today, I can tell you there's 3,682 first doses that have been deployed. There's 1,136 second doses. So that means that there's in the county today, there's 1,136 individuals that we have done that have completed the series. Right now, it looks like the vaccine levels incoming are going to hover somewhere between 500 to 800 doses a week for the first dose, and somewhere between 500 to 800 doses a week for a second dose. So as that continues to come in, we're going to be able to accommodate those that have had first dose already. So next week, we will, the individuals that were received their vaccine on January 12th and 13th, we will bring all of them in one shot on Tuesday. So we'll do about 1,000 people that day. And then Thursday, we'll continue to address the list that we have, the waiting list. So to address the waiting list as a whole, there's roughly 9,000 people that were on the waiting list. We're roughly through about 4,800 of those names. Some of them we vaccinated, some of them others have vaccinated. Could have been another county, could have been, another agency. So we're working through that just as quick as we can. So I still have several thousand people to go through to check and make sure. We anticipate it will probably take another 2 to 4 weeks, depending on how many of those need vaccine and based on vaccine that's incoming. So 2 things I want to address is I assured the board if we could get 1,000 doses in, I can get 1,000 doses out in a day. We proved that this past Tuesday. We went ahead. There were 4 days that we had done the initial dose of vaccine. That was the January 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th. We brought all of those people in on Tuesday, and we did the 1,136 vaccinations. I'm very proud of what the team did, and I know that there's people in this room that were going through that line, and I just want to share, we're doing between 90 and 100 people every half hour. Okay, so consider where we are. We are at the Southside Sports Complex. We're using the soccer field parking lot as our main staging. We had 6 lines of vaccinators running. We had EMS teams in there, and we're holding people for 15 minutes. So we're utilizing that entire soccer field parking lot during the operations. And there's a parking lot just prior to that. We were using that as a staging area to separate people in time slots and make sure that they were checked in and keep the flow going. It's a pretty accurate statement to say nobody spent more than an hour in the entire process. Most of them are going to be 40 minutes or less. So in that, I also want to share that our focus is vaccines. And, I've come before you and the board has been extremely gracious to make sure that we have a facility that we can COVID test, and then also now utilize the county property out there to do the vaccinations. But we did run into a problem that we're going to have to make a slight change. We were trying to finish up Tuesday afternoon, and at the same time, apparently soccer practices started. And so we had a lot of interaction, people trying to drive through a vaccination site. So I only bring it up in a board meeting because I'm quite sure you'll get phone calls or already got phone calls. We thought that we were doing the correct thing. What we will do moving forward, and I talked with one of the soccer folks today, we will ensure if we ever have to use that facility that we will be vacating by 4:30, as long as they can hold off coming in until 4:30. I don't see that it's there. I've worked with the county manager on this. We're going to try and adjust our schedule however we need to, but at the same time, as we're trying to get these vaccines out, I may need that time so that we can accommodate that. So I just want the board to be aware if you get phone calls on that. So, and with that, I will stop and open it up to any questions you may have.
Commissioner Williams?
My wife and I was one of the ones that received our second dose of vaccine on Tuesday. And I was very, very impressed at the organization that you had out there where it was ran. Now, as far as important as the vaccine is to Columbia County, I think the health department take preference over anything we got in this county. I do not think that you should have a time limit when you got to leave, no matter where you are. We know that we tried it at the health department and we caused a big traffic jam. We couldn't work that way.
Yes, sir.
We're out in the open. as far as my voice goes, vote goes, that any facility that you're using in Columbia County, you have total access of it anytime you need it.
Thank you.
One other question. I know on the card that we had to fill out,
Yes, sir.
we had to check whether we had Moderna or Pfizer.
Yes,
Do
sir.
you have both vaccines?
No, sir, we do not. It's just a record-keeping procedure that they want to make sure when you're entering the record, we take that form that you fill out. So you have a card. Everybody that goes through will get a vaccination card that they can keep on themselves. But we also enter that in the state vaccination system, which is called Florida Shots. So if you ever did lose that card, you can come to the health department. We can give you a printout. It will show you, but based on entering the data, they need to know emphatically what type vaccine it was that you received. That's why it's written on there.
Well,
Tom, again, we appreciate what you do. And I got a couple notes in my letters in my box today complimenting all of y'all's efforts. And I already told you one time, but if it does run into a hassle, I can set you up something at the fairgrounds if needed. If you need it, feel free to call.
Yes, sir.
I've heard nothing but good, and that's very strange in government, so you're doing a great job.
Thank you.
Tom, all I can do is echo the sentiments of the others. All I hear is good things about the way you're administering these shots. And I mean, right now, you know, I think everybody agrees that you're doing a great job, and we appreciate what you're doing, and you're making us look good.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chair, I would like for this board to assure our health director that he has the first refusal of the complex. I don't want this to be a head knocking, and we are the ones that can make that decision tonight. They come first.
I agree. I think, as important as recreation is, the vaccines come first.
Anything you're doing is more important than anything else we're doing, because too many people are dying of that.
Yeah.
So soccer needs to accommodate Department of Health, not the other way around.
I want to work with them just as much as I can. I assure you we'll have those discussions, but
But what we don't want is people waiting on vaccines and you having to vacate a facility at 4:30.
And we don't
Not
want
getting
you
those
having to
out,
argue, or, I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Yeah.
We don't want you having to argue, have to call up, we just want you to get your job done, which you're doing, and we don't want any interference. So please call us if that,
no, we're going to do our best to make sure that we can work within their schedules as well. We're all here together. We all want to work together. It's just, we have a huge task, that, and we just want to make sure that we can serve the community the best way we can and not have any issues as well. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom, and we appreciate what you're doing. And like I say, if you need anything from us, you let us know. We'll be glad to accommodate you any way we can.
Yes, sir. I appreciate that.
Thank
Thank you.
At this time, staff, do we have any additions or deletions to the
We
agenda?
have one addition, sir. That is the TDC Small Business Administration application.
Board, I would like to go ahead and address that at this time, if that's okay with y'all.
Yeah.
Paula, would you come up to the podium?
Can we approve the agenda first as amended?
We can, do I have a motion to approve agenda as amended?
So move.
second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Good evening. So the TDC would like to apply for a small business administration loan. What is also the loan particularly is the PPP loan, payroll protection loan. And we are eligible under the new federal guidelines that were just approved earlier in January, end of December, and even though we're a government entity. The challenge is we have to go through a bank. It is not a traditional avenue for government, so we are trying to find a bank to do this. First Federal and Drummond Bank have both offered to help us pursue this loan, but there's not a difference between the loan because it's a federal program. The rate's the same, the process is the same, everything. So TDC staff is asking for direction from the board on how to select which bank. I consulted with Joel Foreman on this, and he had a few ideas. I don't know if you want to share.
So I did provide a very, very brief overview memo with the addition. Hopefully you've had an opportunity to look at that. I understand it's very last minute. The reason for the addition is this is a finite program, just like all the other PPP programs are. We don't want to run to a situation where we make the application and they've run out of money. So it is time sensitive. The issue is because this has essentially been solicited as a price-based bid and the prices are identical, there is no differentiation between the bidding process. I did go through a few different options. I mean, you can literally flip a coin in this circumstance. You can go out to RFP and RFQ to try to get a little bit more information about the respective bidders. The only real tiebreaker that I see in our purchasing policies relates to local versus non-local bidders. And so with those things in mind, we're really genuinely just looking for board direction so we can identify one of these prospects and go forward.
Sure.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
Board, I think this is a great opportunity for this board to initiate in this instance the preference that the board have a policy of where First Federal Savings is have their home office here. And to me, that give us the ability to award that bid to First Federal Savings. And I move that we do so.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to award the bid to First Federal
Yes, sir.
on local preference.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Good.
Yep.
I have questions.
Okay.
So essentially, without the local preference, without that issue being decided, essentially you have two vendors who want to do business with the county.
Mhm.
So why didn't we run through and if this is a price base and you know the price is going to be the same, why didn't we run through an RFQ? And then you could evaluate the qualifications of each one, including local preference, and you would have had an open, fair process like we do with everything else. Instead of like, now it's on the board at the last minute to make a decision.
Well, as Ms. Van indicated, or Mrs. Van indicated, excuse me, don't tell Matt. As Mrs. Van indicated, it's just unusual. You wouldn't normally be shopping for a loan, but for the fact that the TDC has to work through a bank to do this particular program. So it's the emergence of the situation. In retrospect, Commissioner Witt, I do agree with you. It would have been a cleaner process to do RFP and have a little bit more context in terms of the bidders. It's just a very anomalous situation. I would not expect this to ever happen again.
What's the time sensitivity? And how long we've been dealing with this, Paula?
Since the beginning of January, or mid-January, when the loan applications became available, we've had some issues with our current bank that we deal with, trying to figure out if we could do the loan through them and things like that. So just trying to explore our options was part of the process as well. And it was discussed in the TDC meeting last week, and the TDC would like to pursue it. And then also just the time sensitivity of the funds being available, and there is a time limit on how long you can apply for the loan as well.
What's the time limit?
It is March. I'm not sure of the exact date in March, but it is March.
And that depends on whether the money is still there or not.
Yes.
There's a finite pool of money, so it really depends on how fast people rush to get that money. It's available right now. And I guess the deadline for the program is the 31st of March, but like happened with previous runs of PPP, they could find out in the middle of March the money's gone. So you want to get as close to the front of the line as you can. We simply could not wait for the next board meeting because, again, you're costing yourself 2 weeks. You're costing yourself 2 weeks of opportunity. Everything's done except for this decision. So that's why the time sensitivity.
And then the loan process itself, there's quite a bit of paperwork to do, which will have to be presented back to the board, I assume, because it's a contract and things like that. So the in-between work as well will have to be done.
So you just didn't have no success dealing with the bank that we got our account with now, correct?
No, sir, we did not, Commissioner
No
Ford.
matter how many
and,
weeks?
I
I know you don't want to say it, but I'm gonna say it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's several weeks. Commissioner Ford and I both have been working on this.
I don't think you were allowed to, it just started coming out the 15th or 16th?
Yes.
Yeah, so it
yes.
hadn't been a long time. We're not way behind. but-
No, we're not. It's just, again, government processes and what we have to do to get to that point to actually apply for it will take some time as well and presenting back to the board. So,
Mr. Chair, I stick by my motion.
Any more discussion? We have a second and a motion. All in favor?
thank you.
Okay, moving on. So Mr. Kirby.
Okay, good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. First presentation here tonight is a capital project update. The purpose of this presentation is to keep the public and the board informed of what we have going on currently with capital projects. We split this up into grant funded, county funded, and future projects. So we'll start up with the grant funded side of things on the east side sewer expansion out of the North Florida Intermodal Park. The design is underway. We're at about 30% with engineering, working on our documents for permitting. Documents should be ready later, latter part of this quarter. Down in Ellisville, we're about 90% on the design side. It should be ready the early part of this quarter. And once again, if I do not indicate we've got financial problems, we're going to assume we're in good shape. Out at our rail spur job on US 90 East, the north side is substantially complete. The south side is reaching near completion. Everything's good at the time of this writing. We did have an on-site meeting the other day, and the rail indicated, so let me back up. The rail, their team told us what to do out there. Our team did it. We've done everything right. They say we've done everything right. They have now came back to us verbally on an on-site meeting. They have not followed up in writing and said the signalization on the main line now has a problem based on our spur. So our spur is in good shape, what we intend on doing. On their main line, they're of the opinion they need to upgrade some signalization. I heard some numbers of around $500,000. I also heard some indication of shared financial responsibility. We've not seen anything in writing. That's yet to come, I'm assuming. But we've done everything they've said to do, and they're satisfied. This is something new in the mix, okay? Out at Cannon Creek Drainage, this is across from Southside. That project is substantially complete. Clay Hole Creek at 252 at the high school and Old Country Club. That project, we finally got the permit. We are ready to go. Bell Road, as of today, we're putting the friction course, the top layer of asphalt on the job. So that means we're getting ready to button that job up. Out at Mount Carmel and Troy, we have completed all the friction course and whatnot. We're punching that job out. Wilson Springs CHS sidewalks, those will be funded in 2022. 242 West from Brantford Highway to the county line is ready to go to bid next week. 242 East from Tuscanoogie to US 41 at the old Oasis Bar will be ready to go out in a couple weeks. Burley Road from Pine Mountain to US 90 is under contract. And our contractors did promise they would have crews on site Monday.
Mr. Kirby,
Yes, sir.
that is am I correct? Burley Road is a county funded road though?
Yes, sir. I apologize. Yes, it's county. Cypress Lake Charles. At the time of this writing, I would have said this job's perfectly on track. This was the project that we were going to attempt to get property donated. We have run into a little bump. We're going to be addressing that in the immediate future. Parnell Hills. This is out at Moore Road and Lake Jeffrey Highway. This is the Bronco, Pillsbury, all that stuff. We were successful in getting a grant for there at High Dry Acres, south of Columbia City, on the east side of the road, the old High Dry Acres, under the CDBG grants. We were successful in getting grants to pave those roads. So those are, and once again, Burley Road, you're correct, Commissioner, my mistake. With the exception of that, those are your grant funded projects, and with the exception of the rail project, and I don't want to label either one of them a problem in Cypress Lake, but we have a few little issues we got to go through, okay? That takes us to our county funded projects. Down at Fort White, we're waiting on some irrigation supplies. Once they get in, we'll button up all the irrigation that we're doing down there. Annie Maddox, that is substantially complete. The Women's Club is reaching near completion in a couple weeks. Cell 5 sand. As many of us know, when we construct a new landfill, we had to put 2 foot of sand on top of the liner. So in years in advance, we stockpile that sand. That project's going well. The Lake City Animal Shelter, we went in, cleared and grubbed. They're now under construction of the building. We'll go back in, construct parking lots, dress out, et cetera. Petroleum cleanup. This is a result of an underground storage tank contamination issue out at Public Works. We were successful in acquiring a DEP grant. They took care of 75% of it. Our side's 32,000, 25% of it. Based on the COVID and other stuff going on with the federal government, they put us on hold, but everybody's working together on that job. The vertical grinder, this is out at the current detention facility. This was the issue about folks flushing things down the commode, stuff backing up. That project is well underway. October Tabernacle. This is down in Mr. Witt's district. We have completed October. Tabernacle, they were harvesting timber at the same time we were getting ready to pave it. They've now completed the harvesting of the timber. We're paving in town right now on a few things. We'll make our way back down there for you, Mr. Witt. Mayo Road, this is a dirt to pave conversion. Survey's complete. Designs to begin next week. Sparrow Road is under contract currently. The Columbia County Jail, with your permission, Mr. Chairman, we have a lengthy presentation here in a few minutes. Huntington Glen, this is the road that deteriorated and it was considered needed to be looked at pretty quickly. That is on your docket for later on tonight. Okay? All these jobs are going well so far. So what do we have coming up? Your Waste Pro, your solid waste contracts coming up is currently at 2.8 million. Your Class 3, Class 1 expansion for roughly 9 million out of Winfield Solid Waste. We have a meeting this coming Wednesday. Now, when I put those numbers up there, we really don't have a clue what we're doing, and I'll explain. On your Class 1, Cell 5, your line with EH8 collection. Until yesterday, I was led to believe we can do a horizontal expansion of Class 3, therefore no liner, no EH8. Now there's some interpretations that might not necessarily be the case. So we're confident of what Class 1, Cell 5 is going to cost, but Class 3 is all up in the air. But by the time we come back in a couple months, we should have some firm answers. Jail fryer, that's just a cleanup issue at the jail. Need to do some work on the elevator at the courthouse, out of the admin sheriff's office floors, HVAC. Of course, last meeting, we discussed the 400,000 at Southside and the 5 million at Bascom Norris Flatfields. That being said, that's kind of where we're at with our capital projects. Mr. Kraus has indicated to me that he would like to do this on a quarterly basis to let the public and the board know where we're at with all of our projects.
Great idea.
Yes, sir.
Just want to add a couple quick things that we're finding out at the last minute. Got a phone call from DEO today. The contracts for the 4775 CDBG grant should be here to be on your agenda at the next board meeting. There's another 1.5 million. We're in the process of writing a CDBG COVID grant, which is between 200,000 and 5 million, which we have to submit by March 15th. So that public hearing will probably be on your first meeting in March. So, and we still have a couple other CDBG grants we've applied for that are out there that we haven't heard back from. And then there is a CDBG planning mitigation grant with the town of White Springs and UF that has been approved, that UF is administering and will be participating in.
Okay, Commissioner Williams,
Okay.
or do y'all have any of y'all have any comments on that?
Nope.
The update? Okay. Commissioner Williams, you have a update for Bell Road?
Yes, sir. Bell Road corridor. Most people make reference to Bell Road, and we speak of Bell Road. There's a sentimental reason that we are talking about from 441 to 25A. That is not the Bell Road corridor. I've been beat up, down, and smashed and walked on and talked about for the last 10 years about the Bell Road. Having foresight to see that we need another area where industrial development can go. And I think with Warner working there and what Glenn will be able to tell you, that we have we've had 2 meetings with the landowners in what I call the Bell Road corridor. The planning and zoning been working on the language to expand the deuter and make sure that everybody that's in that corridor want to be in part, be their property included in the deuter. It's going to take some time to do that. As we speak today about the Bell Road corridor, a company that's presently in Columbia County have asked for information regarding a piece of property that's off of Bell Road, but would be in the Bell Road corridor. You want to, Glenn? I think you have a little presentation concerning the Bell Road corridor.
Just a little bit of history, and what you're seeing on the screen is going back to 2018-19, near the end of the year, or the beginning of the year for 19. You'll see the rough, raw Bell Road corridor. And for your information, what generated the interest here was the economic development worked back in 2009 with the Rudder team, which was a committee from all aspects of Columbia County to identify sites, and there were 5 sites identified. This site was identified as a potential logistics, distribution, and manufacturing site. Just a little timeline. In 2015, DOT awarded SCOP funds for this project. However, we decided to wait on that because we really didn't have a project to put in place. We were trying to time that together with infrastructure and a project so that we could timely put it together rather than just have something built. We really needed something that we could tie to jobs. So in November of 2019, Warner Trucking came along. Warner Trucking committed $1.7 million and worked with the county to construct water system and wastewater infrastructure. In 2019, the county received a $100,000 grant from the Rural Infrastructure Fund for the design and engineering of the Bell Road utilities. And in November 2019, Columbia County received a $500,000 Rural Infrastructure Fund grant for a natural gas line loop, which runs down 25A. What is unique about this is that you have water and sewer and gas that runs as a complete loop, except that all the way from Lake City on 441 to 25A and back to Lake City, other than the forced main that runs down the Bell Road to 25A. So now the corridor that Commissioner Williams was referring to that runs to the west of this actually runs back to Lake City. So what is unique about that is it's the opportunity now for us to begin to start developing properties from I-10 at 41 all the way back to Lake City. In December of 2020, we had Chad Williams with the engineering department, Brandon Stubbs with zoning, and we had 12 property owners to begin to start working on our next extension for the Bell Road corridor. This is supposed to run about 2 minutes just to give you a rough, raw look, and then what we're going to do is show you a marketing a grant that was given to us from Florida Power and Light that will actually bring this up to date for the construction. You see the Warner site in the rough, raw state of pre-construction. And the grant that we received from Florida Power and Light actually will be assisting us with rebranding our website and bringing it up to date, working with us on our social media and other materials and videos that we will be able to use going forward for this project. We intend to expand this project back around 41 and continue this. So this is a look here of the video for marketing purposes that'll be on our website. We've already begun to start sending this piece out. This is coming from 25A on the west side and runs back to 441. In conjunction with this also, we received another grant for $24,900 from Enterprise Florida to do conceptual design, build out and marketing plans for specific properties. And we are actually sending out a proposal tomorrow for a client, and we sent out a proposal 2 weeks ago for a client in the Bell Road corridor. Just an update on Warner Trucking. They've recently hired 17 local people. They're looking to hire another 17 or 20 folks. They need people to go apply for jobs and be qualified to go to work. They are going to be opening business later in the month. And they will have a formal grand opening for the entire facility sometime in the early spring, where the corporate families will fly down and work with us on that grand opening. And it's pretty exciting to see a raw piece of dirt transformed into a true distribution light manufacturing corridor. Now, you see this film was shot before the asphalt went down, so we will be upgrading this as we move along. But now, currently, right now, I think they're ready to put the last blacktop on place and start striping the project. If you haven't had the opportunity to ride out near Huddle House, across the street from Target, turn down Bell Road, I think you'll be quite amazed at the project. It has an industrial road that was built because the commissioners decided to upgrade and create an industrial highway for trucking purposes. Warner can actually hold 250 trucks in that site, and we're already hearing word of expansion at 41 and 441 from some of the diesel gas facilities that are there. They're both looking to expand. And we also have in the area a CDL company from South Florida that has purchased property and looks to build a school there on about 13 acres. Be glad to answer any questions that you might have. Just wanted you to see a little about what's going on in that area.
Board? No, I don't have no question. I had an opportunity. I was invited out to Warner a week or so ago. It's a pretty impressive operation. If you haven't had an opportunity to make that visit, do so. That's what we need a lot more of here in Columbia County. Great partner, and I think they're going to be they'll be an asset and an anchor to our future growth.
Okay.
Thank you, Glenn. Very impressive video. And I'm looking for great things to happen out that area.
Glenn said something that most people don't realize. When he said they were going to have the grand opening and the corporate people be able to fly in, you don't know how many times you hear that and how important the Lake City Airport is to Columbia County and our development. Mm-hmm. They can fly directly into Columbia County and not have to go into Jacksonville and catch a land travel over to Lake City. So it's very important that we do have that run. The city have that runway there, the airport there that the city owns.
Definitely. Okay, at this time, we're going to do the update for the Columbia County Detention Facility. Mr. Kirby, I'd like you to start that. And if I have anything to add, I'll add it in.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So as most are aware, we're out under construction at Quinton Street on our 256 bed pod facility. Indicated in the gray rooftop is your current facility. In the green is your proposed new. So what are we doing? 256 bed housing pod addition to the existing jail with all the site work. we had a $16,072,000 guaranteed maximum price. Now, this is for the construction of the pod. This is not engineering, all that good stuff. This is the site work and the structural construction of the pod. We do have 2 current change orders on the docket as we speak that goes above and beyond that general GMP rather. 10 secured vegetables at $155,000 and a rec yard at $45,000. So these $200,000 is basically, we're debating between a desire versus a need. We were in receipt of a letter from the Florida Jail Model Association that is saying that is a necessity. So others are interpreting it as a desire. We're working our way through that. But today, those are your 2 issues in addition to the $16 million GMP. Obviously, regardless of how those turn out, we hope we'll find enough positive change orders to negate any negative change orders.
Before we move that, Mr. Chairman, I have a question. Kevin, on the guaranteed maximum bill out, that's once this is completed, without any additional change orders, we'll be able to move the enter into that pod with inmates and staff.
Theoretically, you will not exceed the $16 million for the site work and construction of the pod, correct? Then you move out of your current facility into that facility to renovate your old facility, which I'm gonna get to in a little bit.
Yeah, I'm just talking about the new pod, the pod now that we're building.
Yes, sir.
And that includes all the recommended changes that were negotiated between the sheriff department and Mr. Ford on locks and doors and stuff, all that in that.
That is correct. That is the guaranteed maximum price, including locks and stuff.
Okay, great.
Yeah, when they're through with that facility there, they'll be able to move inmates in for that.
Okay.
As far as we know right now at this.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Mr. Kirby.
Yes, sir. The site work phase was approved on August the 20th of 20. Notice to proceed on August 27th. Mobilization on September 1. Subcontracts authorized. GMP were issued. Submittal started. We had to move our fences around and begin our utility work. So here's a picture of when we kind of got started. There's your existing facility to the immediate east. You see us doing everything I just mentioned in early September. So what did we get done in September? Temp security fence, we had to move the fences around, light poles around. We got our site demo, dewatering, very wet site. We started putting our dewatering, our socks and whatnot. Approval ordering of utility materials, $206,000 that month. October, the final GMP was approved on October 1. Building subcontracts were issued and submittal started. Our Ajax team were fully mobilized. So in October, we began our dewatering, underground utilities, over excavation of the building pads. We had to do a 10-foot cut, get rid of all the bad soil, bring in good. Fire lane construction, FPL primary and temporary electrical conduits, total billing in October, $795,000. In November, over excavation complete and tested, 10-foot of approved soil installed at 8-inch lifts, compacted and tested. New site water and water lines complete, storm water near complete. Total billing in November, $1.2 million. In December, building pad complete and tested, 4-week settlement monitoring officially started. So because we had to do the 10-foot subsoil excavation, bring in all the good fill, 8-inch lifts, density, put plates down to ensure that everything was going to settle out before we put all these structural components on top of it. No work was allowed within 100 foot of the building until everything cleared. Storm lines completed, $1.6 million as of December. So in January, settle monitoring cleared on the 14th. Subcontractors released to begin the slab work, layout, foundation prep, slab plumbing, electrical, $2.4 million. So basically, we come in, mobilized, dewatered, subsoil excavated, backfilled, compacted, settlement tested. Now we're doing the earthwork such as footings, all that preparing for the structural side of things. So we're about wrapping up on the civil side of things. So here's your 90-day look in. And once again, Commissioner Ford and I Commissioner Ford asked me to make sure we try to do this about every 90 days for the duration of this project. And this side of the project is slated to be complete January of 22, so about a year from now. So here we are, sub-slab work, plumbing, electrical rebar, like I said, footers, precast cell footings, structural footings, sails, place the slab, masonry, end-wall work, metal buildings, engineered buildings, and columns. So Commissioner Ford, as you well know, we buttoned up, ready to go vertical, and we're actually a little ahead of schedule. We don't ever like to say that, but that sounded good right now.
Yeah, the sales are actually supposed to arrive next week.
If there aren't any questions of that, we'll move on into the renovation of the existing facility.
Kevin, how concrete are their decision in developing this critical path? They seem that it's a critical path they can keep.
I'm sorry, sir.
Do the contractor believe that he can keep this critical path?
Yes, sir. We do. Once again, we never like to say this for the construction project, but right now we're looking real sporty as far as our critical path. Everything's looking good right now.
Okay.
That can change tomorrow. Okay, the renovation of the existing facility. Construction documentation, production timeframe is envisioned between early April to early October. We should have a real good idea of what we're doing. Once again, we're in the real infant phases of this, okay? But considering everything, we have 22,500 square foot at $125 a foot, $2.8 million. The roof, about a $270,000 cost. Now, for obvious reasons, our intention is to move everybody out of here to the new pod and do renovations. But obviously, you can't do all that simultaneous, so you got to bump the price up for separate mobilization, separate projects.
Yeah, I'll just like that. I have spoken with Captain Douglas about the process. The reason we can't do it all at one time is because they have to keep booking open and they can't move booking into the cell or the pod. But he's pretty, he's pretty, has a good idea he can do it in 2 phases. And he's got a plan worked out for that. And I'd just like to say Captain Douglas has worked with us real well on this project, and he is doing everything in his power to bring this in under budget. And like I say, he's got a plan now to do the remodel in 2 phases, which will save us quite a bit of money if we can do it 2 phases.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to echo, I think it is a very, very good partnership thus far. But with that being said, at your 2.8 plus your 270 plus your 15 to 20%, rough numbers, we're looking at about $3.5 million in totality for the renovation side. Various unknowns like the condition of existing underground site utilities that may be upgraded, developed, or improved will have a potential cost. Fees, fixtures, furniture, equipment, anything beyond normal building equipment. So in my opinion, based on information given, you're south at 3.5, north right there. We will come back with updates, but I think that's your benchmark based on what we know today for the renovations. Okay?
And like I say, all indications we have, talking to Danny Kell and, this is a pretty accurate number. So.
Yes, sir.
Any comment, any other comments on that?
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you, Kevin.
Okay, at this time, Government Services Group.
Good evening.
Steve.
Okay. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Thank you for taking time out for us. My name is Steve Spratt, the Senior Vice President of Government Services Group with offices 280 Wekiva Springs Road in Longwood, Florida. We were asked here just to give a quick report on an assessment that the manager asked us to do on essentially water and sewer governance alternatives. let me first of all, let's see, start by, let's see, which computer am I pointing it at? Okay. There we go. Okay. So first of all, Government Services Group is a local government consulting firm in Florida, management consulting and service contracting firm. Started in 1996. It was originally focused on developing new funding solutions for governments, primarily special assessment programs, things of that nature. Our clients are exclusively governmental entities, primarily Florida counties and cities. We've served hundreds of those folks throughout the years. Corporate offices in Tallahassee, the largest offices in Orlando, which is where I am. That is focused predominantly on water and sewer utility management and consulting. But it does provide full service management staffing for the Florida Governmental Utility Authority. Since 1999, I'll talk a little bit more about that later, but it's soup to nuts. It has no employees of its own, so we provide executive management, finance, accounting, debt management, procurement, oversee operations contractors, administer grants, development review, capital project administration inspection for water and sewer services specifically. I am a former county administrator in Pinellas County, former assistant county manager and budget director in Dade. So we've sort of walked in the shoes of your manager over the years. So the purpose objective that we were given essentially was to follow up on recent discussions with the county manager's office regarding consulting services to help assess the utility situation here in the county. You're not in a totally unique situation, and a lot of the smaller counties, water and sewer infrastructure is a very expensive proposition. In some cases, there are large urbanized areas that can provide that well throughout the county, but in many others, it sort of becomes hit and miss, fragmented, depending upon who's providing what and where. So the county manager asked us to brief the board on some alternative solutions to sort of getting oversight, governance, improvements in that area that you may not otherwise know that's available. And again, he correctly observes that water and sewer infrastructure is so expensive, you got to have collaboration and a sort of a regional approach in order to make it cost effective. So the focus of the discussion today is on these alternative approaches and structures. Real quick snapshot of the water and sewer picture here in Columbia County. There are over 170 water systems currently operating within the county, 100 wastewater systems. Lake City owns and operates the largest water and wastewater facility in the county. And Columbia County is currently providing water and wastewater services in the Ellisville area along I-75, very small service area. So that just gives you a good glimpse of how many folks are providing this service to varying degrees. County currently has a small utility department, but uses its public works employees to maintain those utility assets. Unlike other utilities, it does not have a dedicated utility fund, but uses some general fund monies to operate that. Ellisville and Fort White areas could experience some organic growth along that I-75 corridor, but a majority of the growth, you all know this better than us, is projected to occur in the north and east of Lake City in the industrial park areas, which basically has insufficient water and sewer infrastructure now. So Lake City owns and operates the wastewater facilities close to those target areas, but is limited in its capacity and has not historically been interested in expanding service outside their city limits. That may be changing these days. Again, you guys know that better than we. So county utility options. Again, we've run into this in counties all over the state. How do we get this expensive water and sewer infrastructure to these areas in order to accommodate growth, right? Because a lot of folks aren't going to come there if they don't have basic infrastructure to serve it. So in this case, if your largest water and sewer utility provider either is capacity constrained or has a limited interest in expanding, then there are very limited options, right? If it's not there now. So option one, of course, is the county could partner with Lake City and rely on the city to provide water and wastewater services to these targeted growth areas. Obviously, there That requires negotiations, give and take, service agreements. We note there is some movement in that direction in recent weeks. Again, you guys have a better feel for that than we do. That's tricky because in that give and take process involves who's going to pay for what. And where you stand depends on where you sit, as they say. So option 2, the county could develop its own utility system in these unincorporated areas and cooperate with the city where it makes sense. That would be sharing capacity, for example. Somebody provides wastewater capacity, somebody else builds it, and both share it. The county option may make the most sense for all parties, but would require significant planning and investment by the county. You really have to know what you're doing, have all of the resources to think through those investments carefully. Option 3 is a utility authority concept, and this takes a couple of different forms. You could either partner with another governmental entity to create a new utility authority. This is traveling under an intergovernmental statute, Chapter 163, where 2 or more governments come together with an interlocal agreement, form a special authority to carry out a specific function. Or you could join an existing utility authority that's already doing that. Again, the reason why I think we were asked to come in and look at this is because that's one of the things that we do is run these authorities, manage them. Utility authorities are authorized under that statute, 163.01, Florida statutes. It is generally a special purpose government, like an expressway or airport authority, single purpose, rather than a general purpose, which would be the city or the county, where you're providing a whole array of services, right? A multi-jurisdictional entity for utility improvement, operation, management, and ownership, essentially, is what that is. A couple of governments coming together to focus on this particular problem. A government utility authority is typically governed by a local government appointed board, either local elected officials or local appointed officials. It's established by interlocal agreement, essentially. That becomes its charter. So a specialized a local GUA, meaning specific to that territory. We give you an example, the Highway 79 Corridor Authority. This sounded familiar to me when you were just looking at that other slide of your project for economic development, where you're trying to support some economic development, that Bell Road project. So in this case, up in the Panhandle, and we actually staffed this group as well. It was created in 2018 by Holmes County, Washington County, and the city of Bonifay. They all came together and wanted to try to build water and sewer infrastructure in that particular corridor in order to stimulate economic development, right? So that was the purpose. And they were able to come together because they all had, interests in this area, and they wanted to basically all work together on supporting economic development. So they have been successful in getting some DEO grants and FDOT grants, and we as staff will probably help them prosecute and build that those facilities.
So what role did y'all play in 70, in this?
79. It too doesn't have any staff, the authority, right? They just stand it up with an interlocal agreement, those 3 governments. They need somebody to go get money, right? So we know how to secure grants for this kind of infrastructure in Tallahassee, whether it's FDP or DEO or USDA. So it becomes the utility management arm of the authority, right? It carries out the meetings, does the board clerk work, record all the public recording, goes out, like your staff, gets you money to carry out the projects, hires the engineers, hires the contractors, oversees that work in order to complete whatever the authority wants to do. So that's our job. We have PEs, CPAs, grant folks that all kind of come to bear to staff that particular special government.
So y'all design all the way from the design and engineering?
Well, we oversee the design professionals, right? So we don't practice the design of the facility, but we oversee the consulting engineers who do, right? Because somebody needs to manage them. So we do the project management and program management, just to make sure that
And
everybody.
y'all also manage the utility as far as operations?
Yes,
for
sir.
the plants and stuff like that?
Yep.
And y'all
we got-
provide the manpower for that?
We contract that out as well to the largest utility operations firm in the state, U.S. Water Services Corporation. And we serve as the owner's rep, watching those folks too, to make sure they stay on their game. So I have with me Will Fontaine, 40 years in the water and sewer management business. He is one of the guys that oversees these folks, licensed operators, to make sure
Y'all do the billing and also all the billing and stuff for the
customers.
customer?
Yes, sir. Yeah, that's
So y'all manage the whole operation,
soup to nuts.
and now what does the county get out of it? Do y'all pay the county any surcharge or anything like that, or?
Well, the utility will pay an administrative fee, just like any utility department would have staff that they'd have to bring on board. The difference is that we're contract folks. We're not employees of the authority. We're contract employees. I'm the system manager of the FGUA, the Florida Government Utility Authority. So I'm a public official under state law because I oversee a public authority, but I'm a private employee. We've compared those costs with government self-perform costs, and they're usually lower. Interestingly, I say that because I was a former county budget guy.
So what percentage of the project does the county fund?
Well, the county wouldn't necessarily pay for it. The customers would, right? So if it's residential connections, then they're charged a residential service fee every month for water and sewer service. If it's a commercial customer, same thing. They're billed as a utility customer. You all pay somebody probably for water and sewer. That's the way that the authority gets its revenue. So it's essentially self-supporting.
So y'all design and put in the infrastructure, and then y'all do the billing and collect the money?
Correct. Correct. All the accounting. If you had to finance the facilities, then we take care of all the debt management, work with the rating agencies, the underwriters to secure the loans. I'll tell you a little bit more about that as we go on.
I have one more question before
Sure.
we move on.
Mhm.
Who determines where the lines get run and where the lines need to be?
The authority board is essentially, just like you are, the governing board for Columbia County.
So what if we have a project going to this site? Y'all have the final say whether or not we get sewer water there?
Right. So I'll explain the FGUA concept in a second that'll answer that question.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So this just happened to be a custom GUA concept. That's why I wanted to point it out. It's focused solely on building water and sewer on that corridor for economic development. Oops. Okay. All right. So a general GUA example is this Florida Governmental Utility Authority. It's an example of a GUA that could be utilized anywhere in the state. In other words, it's portable. It can go to Marion County or Lee County or Columbia County, wherever somebody needs an authority to come in and help do these things. And we would only go there, the FGUA, with the consent of that local government or the invitation, right? Because it's a special purpose authority. It doesn't want to get involved in conflicts with locals, so it's a tool. It was established in 1999 by an interlocal agreement between those four counties, Brevard, Lee, Polk, and Sarasota, to acquire a former private investor-owned utility, Avatar. And they wanted to sell all their assets in multiple counties, but no one county could buy it, right? So the special law said you can create this authority and move it around the state wherever it's needed. There is a board of directors that govern it with representatives from each member county, right? So if you ask this GUA to come in and help, you automatically get a seat on the board if you're a member of that authority. So you get to help influence rates, CIP, customer service levels, all that this authority is doing because you're a member, you're a voting member. Currently, there are 8 members to this authority now: Citrus, Henry, Flagler, Lee, Marion, Nassau, Pasco, and Polk. We just bought the Flagler County utility system because they just wanted to get out of the business. They were kind of fed up with utilities. So they enter into the interlocal agreement with this authority and have a seat on the board as a member to kind of keep an eye on what's happening in their county.
Question.
Yes, sir.
If a county decides to go this way and they have infrastructure already in place, how do we receive something back for the infrastructure that we have in place? How do that fit in this scenario?
Okay. So let me give you a couple examples. Okay. When we bought the Flagler County utilities, the county owned the utilities. They sold it to this FGA authority for whatever its reasonable value is, right?
Okay.
If they have a lot of equity in that system, they get some cash. We bought the city of Dunellen's utility system and they got a few $1 million in net income cash. They eliminate all the debt from their books. It becomes the liability of the new authority, right? So that's one way the government that is joining the FGA can get a benefit from a transaction. The authority can buy their stuff, their assets, right? Many times, though, it may not have any net equity because it's run to failure, needs a lot of improvements. It may have negative equity. So it really depends on the circumstance of the assets. So once that happens, the utility becomes owned by this authority and run and managed and improved, expanded as the agreement provides for. And then the revenue is derived from the customers, right, who pay the bills for the water or sewer service. Did that answer your question?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And why I asked that question, Columbia County is applying to Real Water Management for our own cup. It's costing money to do that.
Right.
We get that cup and we doing a sewer treatment plant.
Right.
From a grant that we got from the state.
Mm-hmm.
If we decide to use you guys to help us develop a utility system within the county and eventually might turn it over to you, do we be reimbursed for all that money up front, which would be a new system in place?
That would be part of the equity calculation. In other words, what is this stuff worth? Right? It's like when you, I don't know, buy a business and maybe they got cash in the bank, right? Well, that's part of the value that somebody would pay for, right?
Okay.
So it really depends. In Dunellen, for example, they had FDEP grants, springs protection grants for the Rainbow River. What they did is they just transferred that grant to us because we have good relationships with FDEP and we carried out the work.
Okay.
So it really depends on what the grant terms are, how much has been spent. Since then, we've gotten 10 million more in grant money because we know how to compete for this dollars around the state. So. Okay, so I just want to give you the picture of the footprint of the FGUA currently, and this is one of the best kept secrets. I've been in government for 40 years. I didn't know about this thing until I became the manager of it. So we're in 14 different counties, 15 counties, sorry, we just added Flagler, 82 individual systems, 79,000 water connections, 60,000 wastewater connections. Over on the left is the specific systems that are owned. I want to point out on the far left, MacDill Air Force Base. We're pretty proud of that because it's home of Central Command and Special Operations Command. The FGA owns and operates the water and sewer facilities there and takes care of them. The Dunellen utility system is a city utility. It was the first time we acquired a city utility system. And that's the one that we're getting a lot of money to improve the river quality. Just took over Flagler. And then we currently manage all aspects of the Nassau Amelia Island utility in Nassau County. Okay, so I think I already did that one. I did that one, sorry, I had to jump. Okay, so each FGA board member is a representative of that government that invited them in to help them with their utility problem. Not all governments where we exist want to be on the board. They may have an interlocal agreement. It's up to them. I mentioned to you it has no employees of its own and uses full contract management. They have the right to acquire the systems in their jurisdiction at any time. This is a pretty cool feature, right? So you hand off all the liabilities and the problems and the headaches to the authority. And once it's improved at any given time, if you want to take it back as a county utility, then you may acquire it for just any outstanding obligations it has, right? That's
So basically, you can acquire back for the debt on the system.
correct. So, Collier County just did this. We had a system down there outside of Naples for 20 years. It was all run to failure, terrible shape, non-compliant. And Collier County was kind of smart. They just waited until we cleaned everything up, paid down the debt, and then decided to buy it. They just closed on that a year or so ago. And another one was sold to Pasco County that we fixed up. So the FGA acquisitions have typically been in privately owned systems. However, recent ones have been McDill, Dunellen, and Flagler, which are government systems. Okay. So what's the advantages of these GUAs? Well, it's an entity focused solely on water and sewer issues. Both of those versions, right? What we find a lot is counties and cities have got a lot of stuff to try to keep track of. Police, fire, sanitation. The ideal thing of being able to focus on one of them is just generally give it better attention, right? And more time to fix those problems. So in this case, it would be an organization focused solely on Columbia County water and sewer issues would be that local one. If you created one here with just Lake City or whoever you wanted to. The advantage of the bigger one, the FGA, is that it's got a lot of mass and scale and economies. Because we're in all of those different counties in and around you, our people are moving right by. So you get some cost advantages. And then we have all of the pool of resources of all the consulting engineers, the grant people, all that stuff. Okay. So the disadvantages, the manager wanted me to make sure I identified it. Well, essentially it's giving up control to another entity or board. County government's not owning this stuff and solely controlling it. You're doing it in partnership with another entity. But it's worked if you ask any of the other county governments that we serve. So that's pretty much it. Those are the governance alternatives. I focused on that. We stayed away from a lot of the details of the 120 different little systems, community systems you have. Be happy to answer any questions.
Well, what about expansion? What is y'all's, are y'all goal oriented toward expansion of systems or?
It depends on who wants the authority's help. And I would not have predicted all the expansion in those areas over the last 10 years, particularly like McDill or Dunellen, now Nassau County. But what we see happening is that the problems are getting worse with these facilities. They get older. The cost of keeping them up is getting higher. Regulations are being layered on top of it for water quality. So the standards of these things. And so you see a lot of governments who just say, I don't want all these headaches, right? And I just assume if I have a partnership with a fellow government, right, just like us, Sunshine Law, public records, all this stuff, and they can take care of all these headaches, and I can buy it back at any time when we're ready to, then why not? So Lee County government has got a big utility. Pasco County's got a big utility. But they basically asked us to come in to say, could you just take care of these problem children, right? And I think we've had the systems in Lee County for 20 years. And as long as the customers are getting taken care of and the facilities are being improved, it's been an attractive alternative, a partnership for a lot of these counties and cities. So the goal is set by the demand, I guess, to answer your question, right? There may be a bunch of counties at some point that want to buy them back. I'd be surprised, but in which case, that's the way it works. It gets smaller. That's, by the way, why we have contract personnel, so that it can expand and contract very easily.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
I have a question and comment. So looking at, well, first of all, this is very encouraging because a few months ago, our only options we thought were we go alone or we partner with the city, and now we see we have other options. I'm looking at the local GUA versus the existing GUA. I'm curious how the existing GUA in all those counties would look at our county, because our utilities right now are speculative, meaning we don't have the customer base. We're building it and hoping they will come. And we've been fortunate that we've been able to do that with grant money and not taxpayer money. But I don't know how somebody in Nassau County is looking at, our speculative utility here with no customers, because, and we're pretty confident we're going to get customers. I'm looking at Glenn, but how they would view that and how they would be aggressive to expand. So I'm actually thinking that could our best option be the local GUA and maybe get that going? And if we built that and had customers and then maybe join the state.
So it's a great question, Commissioner. And the reason why and I should have mentioned this earlier, each of these utility systems that you saw there are self-supporting. They have to sustain themselves. So we do not cross-collateralize. We do not use customer revenue from Marion County or Lake County, anywhere else but those areas, right? And the whole purpose of that is just to make sure that you have some equity in the charges. So in this case, it would be a Columbia County utility system that would have to survive off of its own revenues, grants and customer charges and things of that nature. That's why the other counties don't have any problem, right? Flagler County just joined. All of the costs of running that utility are being paid for by Flagler County customers, not anybody else in the state. So
if that's the case, I'm just wondering what the advantage is of having, so your revenue's paying for your utility, but yet you've got decision makers from all these other counties impacting what you do.
That's
So I'm not seeing, other than, you have a bigger pool for pricing and things like that, I'm not seeing big advantages of going with the state system versus just creating your own local.
right. So it's a good point, and I got to clarify that it's not a state agency, right? It's just got a statewide footprint.
Statewide.
There you go.
So, yeah.
So the advantage is it's got all that capacity right there on day one. As soon as you start signing an interlocal agreement, then you have this resource pool that goes right to work. Now, in terms of, let's say your interest being diluted, that's a fair point, right? Now you're working with all these other counties. The board works in a deference to the local host government of that utility. So if we want a rate increase in Lee County or have a policy decision, all the rest of the board defers to the Lee County representative. So what do you want to do? Because that's your backyard. That's what's also been very helpful, is the other board just respects this other government and focuses on their priorities. So those are the two advantages, is if you create a local one, first of all, it doesn't have any credit history. It doesn't have any experience operating. It's got to ramp up. It's got to procure the operations contractors. It's got to procure the design and engineering design firms and just kind of get everything working, right? So I think the reason why, for example, Flagler and Nassau joined the FGUA is I get to work right away. In those cases, they had horrible water problems, water quality problems, black water coming out of the fire hydrants. They had to do something. So, I think, again, you can talk to the commissioners or, chair or elected officials or appointed officials of these other counties for objective feedback on that, how it works, what the disadvantages, advantages are. All I can tell you is that Jerry Cameron, the county manager in Flagler, brought the FGUA in before the transaction because he was just getting killed with poor utility service and had to do something. So we ran that system for 9 months prior to the transaction. Same thing with Dunellen. Dunellen was in trouble with FDEP on compliance issues. We ran that system for 6 months while we were getting in that case, it was the USDA funding to acquire it. So, but we respect the wishes of any local government, whichever they want to go. As I say, we don't force ourselves on anybody. It's just a tool, and it may not work everywhere, but it's worked for a lot of folks.
Well, in Flagler County, Was there two municipalities within Flagler County, such as city, or is it county had all the utility operations there?
No, so they have some big cities, right? Bunnell and some other ones, and that have their own utility systems. But the county had the unincorporated areas.
Mm-hmm.
So that was their problem. They just didn't, they said, we're not doing well at this. So the municipalities would maintain their own systems, and the county utility is what was offered to be sold to us.
Okay, so that there is a separation there. There's two.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
okay. So as this board, when you're trying to grow a system and you come in, if I'm understanding what you're saying, the system's got to be sustainable in order for this group to be able to take it.
Either through grants or operating revenues or financing. You know, it can issue debt. It's got the power to issue debt.
Okay,
But
say
yes.
for instance, you jump on a system that is definitely in the red right out the gate. I mean, there's just not enough customer base. How do y'all go about us increasing your customer base? Does this authority have the authority, or how do you go about, how do you make people get onto, or how do you encourage people to get onto it?
So it's usually a combination of other grant revenues to sort of be the seed money. It does have the authority to charge impact fees, capacity fees, which can be prepaid. That's not unusual for utility. The developer's ready to go. They need this much water or sewer capacity. They pay an impact fee for that capacity to be provided. And then that's the main way.
How about availability fees?
That is permissible as well.
That's
There's typically that's right, a base fee. Once that line, but the line's got to be there. It's going to be ready to serve, what that's sometimes called.
Right.
And that affords an incentive too.
That's what?
That provides an incentive too. If I'm paying for the capacity availability to serve, then I go ahead and connect.
But if I'm understanding you correctly, with the availability clause in there, FDU would have the authority to enact that in that area, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
If the
County
only-
government, city government would have no say in that, correct?
Correct. Again, with the board from that, the representative from that area would normally be the one that would be supportive. They wouldn't do it if that county didn't want to impose a availability fee.
So you're saying one person can change the view of the whole FGU?
No, well, no, I don't mean to say that. What I mean to say is that the rest of the board is usually very deferential to that. They want to try to accommodate the interest of that county.
What's your experience been in that situation?
I can't think of any rate increase, for example, that was approved that was not supported by the local government that utility existed in. In fact, there was a rate increase that we were recommending that the local government didn't want it to be that high or wanted to phase it over time. And the rest of the board essentially understood that. They wanted to make sure that the finances were secured, but they were deferential in accommodating the interests of that government.
Well, I simply say, I simply had to use that situation for the simple fact of the availability. I've been involved in one of them. You don't have a hose on your land, but you still pay X amount of dollars a month. And because the facilities that the county owns as of today, and I'm just going to throw a target date, you come in here in December 1st, there's no way you make money. You're in a hole, just like we are.
That's right.
And will be for quite some time. So I just, very, very good information. I just got to do my own research and, like you said, you go talk to the people that's experiencing it because, I've heard good things and, questionable things also. Nothing on y'all's part. It's just the system, how it works, but.
Sure.
Okay.
Commissioner Williams?
Here we go. Exactly where Columbia County is today when it comes to utilities. Unless something changed from City Hall, that they are not interested in a regional utility system. So we can count that one out. Secondly, they did a priority where what year their priorities would be met. Our biggest need is 4 years from their priority. And we can't wait that long. We've already lost one company because we couldn't get water, the volume of water we needed to that facility. So, all right, we're not gonna have a regional utility. We don't have any other choice but to go it on our own. And, this discussion started, middle of last year, Mr. Murphy? When we asked for this company to be sought after, the middle of last year?
This
Yeah.
group here, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So we have been pondering this, and there's been board members say, let's go. And I've been saying, let's wait and hear what we're up against before we say, let's go. But we are looking for an avenue that trust me, we don't want to be in the utility business. We didn't want to get in the utility business when we went to Ellisfield. But we didn't have a choice because our counterpart would not agree to take the system over or do what needed to be done in Ellisfield. And we keep seeing this happen day in and day out. We are responsible for growing Columbia County. And how we grow Columbia County is through getting companies to locate within the county in order to give our constituents an opportunity to have a good paying job. It's been like this ever since I've been on the board, and that's been over 40 years. We haven't changed a bit, haven't nothing changed in 40 years. And I'm tired of, I feel like I'm sorry, just beat my head against the rock. And I can't last much longer doing it. So we got to do something, and what we need, what this board was looking for is ideas and help for you all to tell us how we can help ourselves. That's what we're looking for.
Mm-hmm. And these are some tools that have been helpful elsewhere in the state, is really why I kind of distilled it down to those. In terms of the revenue, its revenue situation is always a challenge, and there's a combination of assessments, impact fees, when you have these kind of greenfield type of situations, right, where it's nothing there, you got to make stuff happen. You got to get a combination of grants, impact fees, availability fees, in order to grow it. And then the more you grow the base, the more customers you have, the more affordable everything becomes. That's really the trick.
You spoke earlier, relevant to y'all's experience with grants and what have you. In a real quick overview, what's the advantages of groups like y'all over county government as far as grant process? I mean, it sounds like y'all may be a little bit more successful than.
It's just results. Candidly, our experience is that FDP, for example, all the money they have for SRF and various sources are trying to spread it around the state. And in many cases, the stuff's not getting done, right? They don't have the capacity, the horsepower to put the grants to work, to hire the designers, to hire the contractors, to build the stuff, to get results. So that's one of the things that I've been told is I'd rather give it to you guys. In the case of Dunellen, they were sitting on $2.3 million for 3 or 4 years, mm-hmm. and it was still there. And so, we're already, we've already got the designs completed for that work, So again, that's one of the advantages is just the capacity, the relationships to get to work. Because that's what you try to do for the bottom line. Otherwise, the longer it languishes, the more project gets sucked up.
I agree.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's one of the things that kind of caught my attention, the success you guys have had in that line.
But now certain counties are big enough, they've caught in their stride. Mm-hmm. So it's not necessarily as necessary because they have the same relationships, the capacity to get projects done.
Gotcha.
So, thank you, Mr. Chair. So hypothetically, today, the situation we're in, we've got the intermodal site, which we're behind the 8 ball on. We've got an Ellisville utility that could possibly help out a situation in Fort White that that needs to be addressed. The Bell Road area is served by the city. It makes more sense to stay with the city there. So hypothetically, could we create a local GUA to deal with our hot spots we need to deal with? And over time, as that builds and develops, if we decide maybe going bigger to the statewide GUA is the best option, move it that way. I mean,
That's an option.
I just don't see the feasibility in starting with the statewide option, because they're not going to take you to your profitable anyway. And we're going to need help getting this thing off the ground and making money.
That's really your policy choice. That's why I gave you those two options, the Highway 79 corridor, where it was limited, customized. Now they're struggling to, get the money, get the resources to get the project going. So there are pros and cons. More local control, less economy of scale, capacity to get the grants, to get the assessments, put all the puzzle together to deliver the projects. But that's your policy prerogative, obviously.
Some of the descriptions that Mr. Witt just gave you, is there one other county that comes to mind that you've dealt with in the past? I mean, out of all these counties that's parts of this, what Mr. Witt just explained to you, is there a similarity somewhere out there that comes to your mind?
There are a number of them, slightly variations, but for example, we don't believe in duplicating capacity, right? So it's in the best interest of customers to contract for capacity if it's there. So we've had plants that are terrible shape, need to be replaced, not replace them, instead enter an agreement to have the city of Ocala or Marion County or somebody supply the capacity. Pasco County, terrible water supply problem, right? Rather than build a whole new plant, we built 5 interconnects with the county government so that anytime you reach your permitted capacity limits, you just open up the valves and you have plenty of water. So, yes, I think, Commissioner, there are examples where those intergovernmental partnerships, recognizing who's around you, who's got capacity, and what's the smartest way to deliver it, is something that we've done.
So I would assume in your negotiation to start off with that if the grants aren't available, I guess government, whoever you're going into contract with, they would be the ones that sustain the initial upfront money, correct?
Yeah, for the Highway 79, the 3 governmental entities provided some seed money for, basic staffing, legal work, that kind of stuff. In other cases, they've issued debt. If they've got some collateral, they've got big customer connections, they can go out and borrow the money as long as they got a bill payer.
Gotcha.
So is grant money, do y'all count grant money that we already have as seed money?
Sure. That's, I understand you got some money headed to try to build a sewer facility.
Correct.
As I say, in the case of Dunellen, FDP transferred that grant dollars to the FGUA to get the project going. Yeah. I mean, in fact, that's the best way to do it, right? Have the state or federal government pay.
Now, if we do most of this with grant money, are y'all paid with grant money? For y'all's?
Yeah, the grants can pay for administrative costs.
They can pay for administrative costs?
Yes, sir. The Nassau County Amelia Island, Nassau County got the grant. We got additional grants for Nassau County, and they allow you to charge, include in the grant budget, 10% or something for administration.
Definitely something for us to look at.
Yep.
Well, Mr. Chair, what's our next step? Do we need to workshop this and determine how, we can't wait anymore.
I agree.
This needs to be jumped on.
Yeah, I think at this point, we probably need to do a workshop and, let's sit down and hash this out with our county manager and our assistant county manager and, see how we want to proceed from this point. Because I agree, at this point, we have to move forward.
David, with the contract that we've got with these gentlemen here, is there any more forthcoming out of their research?
Yes, this was to give them some more information before they finish their finalized report.
Okay.
So when would y'all like to meet on this?
When will the rest of their report be available?
We're gonna get together, I guess, tomorrow or Monday and figure all that out.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I think we have enough examples
Me too.
of options as to how to move forward, that even without the rest of their report, we can workshop it, and at least come up with a game plan of what path we want to go down.
I agree. So, y'all want to meet like at 4:00 before the next meeting?
Is an hour going to do it?
2:00? I'm good.
David's shaking his head. I don't think.
I think you'll need more than an hour.
So,
Yeah.
you want to say
3? Mark it.
I think 2 hours would be enough.
3:00? So we'll set a workshop for 3:00. I believe that's on the 17th. Is that correct?
Mr. Chairman, in calling a workshop, because we can't take official action, we want to take official action, so call it meeting/workshop.
Well, we meet that night, so we could take
Yeah,
official action at the meeting that night.
Well, okay, we can. I just
So we'll
don't
make
wanna-
sure it's an agenda item on the meeting as well.
Yeah, we
Okay,
can make
all
sure
right.
it's an agenda item
Yeah, if it's an
on the
agenda
meeting
item,
for
we
that
can.
night.
Mr. Chair, it's the 18th.
I'm sorry, the 18th, yes. Okay, we're gonna meet, set a workshop for 3:00 on the 18th. And then we'll put on the agenda for the regular county commission meeting at 5:30 for discussion of sewer. And maybe action.
Right. And we'll also have a presentation of the Fort White utility stuff too.
That's exactly right. We will have a presentation of Fort White that night also for their water.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank y'all. Thank you. Thank y'all for coming in. We appreciate your presentation.
Mr. Chairman, I move, we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay,
Chair, before, the clerk would ask that you approve, consent item number 6, the minutes of the January 21st meeting with the addition of the highlighted sentence.
okay,
I make that amendment to the consent agenda.
Second.
okay. I have a motion from Commissioner Williams, second by Commissioner Witt. All in favor? Okay, can I get a motion for the adoption?
So move.
Second.
Got a motion by Commissioner Witt, second by Commissioner Williams. All in favor? Aye. Okay, this time we'll move ahead to next agenda item. Looks like our counselor is already at the podium.
I know better than keep y'all waiting. Mr. Chair, this evening we have the county manager's employment agreement between the Columbia County Board of County Commissioners and interim county manager David Kraus. At the last meeting, the board indicated its interest in having a contract negotiated and presented. Mr. Kraus took Mr. Scott's last contract, his only contract, made some revisions to it. We sat down and discussed it. I reduced the requests and changes to writing. The most substantial changes are in section 7, which relate to certain benefits Mr. Kraus would like to receive with respect to use of an automobile, his communication equipment, and home and office equipment, particularly in light of the pandemic. Wanted to be able to make sure he could work from home at all hours, regardless of the availability of county facilities. And also the pay is adjusted in the text from $120,000 per year to $125,000 per year. But I did note in the memo that Mr. Scott's last pay, due to the adjustments he'd received during his tenure, he was around $123,000 and change. So it's not a full $5,000 increase. It's an increase of under $2,000 per year. And with that, Mr. Chair, I'll entertain any questions.
Okay. I have a letter that one of our constituents has sent. He wanted to be here tonight. But he asked me if I would read this letter on behalf of David. And I told him I would if it's all right with the board. Dear Commissioners, I wanted to be present to say this in person. However, I am unable to, due to scheduling conflicts I could not avoid. Thank you for allowing my voice to be heard. I became aware that at this meeting, you would be discussing and voting, I assume, to appoint David Kraus to be next county manager. I wanted to speak on this matter. I have spent most of my adult life in leadership roles that demand immense amounts of pressure and accountability. I have come to operate by two guiding principles. And when I look for leaders, I weigh their ability against these principles. The first is, do they have the true character a leader must possess? I firmly believe the character of a person is not revealed in who you play up to. We all treat those we aspire to gain from with a certain level of respect and urgency when they call upon us. The character of a person is revealed in how you treat those who are climbing behind you. It's not the people that can do something for you or take you to another level that matters or reveal your true character. It's how you treat people that can do nothing for you, but you could make a meaningful impact for them. The second is how committed you are to facing tough conversations. Leading is easy when someone else carries the weight. However, if you are willing to face difficult head-on and have a willingness to find resolutions, even if you know the conversation is going to be hard, for me, that is the mark of a good leader. I love this community, and I believe it is one of the best places to raise a family. I have told any persons that would listen that I believe the next 10 years are strategically critical for the future of our county. Appointing the right leader is paramount to this time. That is why I felt compelled to speak tonight. I firmly, without any reservation, feel that David is the right man to be our county manager. Recently, I have gotten to know a few of you guys as well as David. Consistently, I have been astounded by his willingness to prioritize my concerns, knowing the real challenges he is facing daily. When you look for a community leader, you want someone who understands their job is first to the citizen, then to the job responsibilities. Over the last month or so, I have worked with David. He has shown this to be who he is and what he believes. He has never failed to respond promptly and be honest with me. If I am being honest today, where I am, who I am, and what I am facing does nothing for him or will help him in any way. Right now, I am the one climbing behind. Knowing this, he cared because I cared. He faced tough conversation on my behalf. He did not have to do this. And when I look for leaders, I weigh their ability. Hold on a minute. Computer glitched on me. He has never failed to respond promptly and be honest with me. If I am being honest today, where I am and who I am and what I am facing does nothing for him or will help him in any way. Right now, I am the one climbing behind. Knowing this, he cared because I cared. He faced tough conversation on my behalf. He did not have to do any of this. He could have stated there was nothing he could do. However, he chose to care because he cares for our county. He cares for its people, and he understood the importance of valuing the person over the job responsibility. This is what we need at this strategic moment in time. He is who we need to work alongside you to catapult our county to the next decade. I know you have to vote, and I know that some were still holding out for other potential candidates. However, when the right person is present, there is no need to keep looking. I respectfully implore you to consider my words on Mr. Kraus's behalf. I firmly believe he is the right person for this time in our county. Thank you for allowing me to be heard without being present. Respectfully submitted, Reverend Raymond L. King. Okay. Public comment, Steve?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't know where Reverend King got my letter. He seems to have copied it word for word. I have a couple questions about this contract. I never saw anything like this before. Just a couple of questions. I don't have any problems with Mr. Kraus. That's a decision you folks have to make. In section 7, I never saw anything like this before. It says that he gets a vehicle, and it's for his personal use also, with no mileage. So he has a car that he can use. I guess his wife could use it, his kids could use it. I don't expect that he's going to do it. What I'm saying is this sets a very bad precedent in government. Even the college, where the president of the college gets a car, it has a mileage limit on its personal use. But this is, apparently Mr. Foreman did this. I've never seen this before, and I think this needs some thought. It's also a bad example for other employees. Do they get their cars to go home? Everybody knows the county manager's on call 24 hours a day. Mr. Kirby's on call 24 hours a day. There's people in this county that are on call 24 hours a day, but they don't get a car to use willy-nilly whenever they want. So I think that has to be changed. His business use. The other thing is the phone. Mr. Kirby might remember in his first few months of service with the county saw that he was using the county phone for personal use and pulled the records, the phone records, and said, Mr. Kirby, you continue to use those, we're going to have to charge you for the phone calls. If you look at his file, it's buried deep in there. So that's also sets another bad precedent, is that county business is county business, not his personal business. This is another thing that apparently has come out of the county attorney's office, who represents everybody. And the third thing, which I believe I heard from this board, and I don't see in the contract, and maybe you're going to do this tonight, I don't know about it, is that Mr. Kraus has been running the county for the last few months at his old salary. I believe I heard somebody say, and clearly that would be the fair thing to do because you do it for other people in the county, is to make whatever agreement he made in his contract retroactive to the day that he became the interim county manager. So I would strongly recommend and ask that you do that just out of the element of fairness. Apparently his job was good enough, or better than good enough, that you chose to, or may choose to hire him full time. If you do that, I feel that would be an act of good faith. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Looker. Comments?
Mr. Chairman, I stand by my comments at our previous meeting when I made the motion to nominate Mr. Kraus as our permanent, not interim county commissioner, county coordinator. He proved himself to me. The only thing that concerns me, and I guess under his reorganization, if there's going to be a reorganization on how he wants his administration to work under him, and he told us that he will still write all the grants. That's a big deal right there. As much money that he brought into this county through his ability to write successful grants. And under the previous administration, there was 2 administrators under the assistant administrators under the county manager. Not questioning his ability to handle what he's doing, but I would like to see a reorganization, how he want to reorganize his administration. But I stand by my motion from our previous meeting, and I'm willing to offer that same motion again, that we approve Mr. Krause's contract. If Mr. Krause feel that he should be compensated for the time that he has spent as county manager, I think he did the right thing by accepting that position so he could showcase his ability to do what we asked him to do. And that's my motion.
Second.
Well, I agree with Mr. Williams. I'd like to see the makeup of what his plans are. And that's why I'm not against David Krause. I'm not voting against David Krause, but I'm in support of the commitment that we've made as a board prior to this to the constituents of Columbia County, that we were going to do our due diligence, which FACT is in the middle of it. And I'm sure that FACT met with Chairman Ford and our HR and recommended that the extension should be made because they didn't feel like it was the proper time to have done it during the holidays and, this, that, and another. I am not here voting against David Krause. I will not support. I don't see the urgency. I agree. David helps me every day. We work. I think I was the third or fourth person, that David met in Columbia County the day he come to Columbia County. But we committed to the taxpayers that this was the path we took down. I don't see the urgency to go for it. Now, while David's sitting in this position, I agree 100%. I think he ought to be compensated accordingly. And, but the urgency of going through this, we hired FACT. We spent county tax dollars. We don't have a clue who's, there's all kinds of rumors running around there. This one did that, that one did that. I haven't sat down and looked at the application yet. It's not my responsibility at this point. FACT's supposed to bring their facts to us, give us their reasonings, and go forth. And then at that time, in my opinion, Mr. Krause has definitely got the advantage over anybody that applies. And they've got the opportunity to come up here and share their opinions and the reason why us as 5 county commissioners should hire this person. That's just my opinion.
I disagree. The applicants are known. They were published in the paper. I don't see anything out there that's going to match what we already know we're getting with David. He's proven himself time and time again. I understood in the beginning going down the road and looking for outside candidates, but in the meantime, you've got a guy in there for the last 3 months that's just outshined anything I think we can get from the outside, and he deserves the job. I don't have a problem with the salary package is reasonable. I don't have a problem with the vehicle. I assume there'll be some kind of a policy about around the vehicle, who can use it, who can drive it, whatever. And I mean, I think it's a fair contract. The smartphone, I don't know why you don't have a smartphone now. Your phone has to take back to the Clinton era. So every time I see you answer your phone, I'm like, wow.
I bet you don't get rid of it.
And as far as, his comments about, Kevin Kirby making phone calls in the, whatever, that's not an issue anymore on government phones because now you get 1 or 8 no matter what. So, I mean,
Ron Williams has got one and you don't have one.
I didn't say I could use it.
So I think it, and I think with all the economic development projects going on with this utility thing now, in front of us, and I think the position needs to be filled and needs to be filled soon, tonight.
I agree with Commissioner Witt. I think that we need to move on. I think we need to get on with business. I think this is an obstacle that's keeping some things from happening that should be happening at this time. It's a very critical time. I've been commissioner now for about 2 years, and during my tenure, David has been a great help to me, a great wealth of knowledge. And I walked beside David, getting information together for grants. And I did have the opportunity to look at the applications, And one of the things that really stood out to me on every one of them was the people that applied, about 3 years was as long as they stayed anywhere. Most of them was 18 months to 2 years, and they moved on. So that kind of stood out to me on the applications. David's been around here a long time. We know what David's capable of, and I support David at this time.
I think we set a preference when we hired the former county coordinator. We didn't go out for bids. We didn't go out for requests for people to serve this county as county manager. We moved Ben Scott up to that position without advertising for anything else. So if it's good enough that we done Ben like that, I got that same confidence that I have in David that I had in Ben to not go through the cease the interview process now.
And I agree with you, Ron, but why did we as a board of 5 decide to spend taxpayers' monies to go down that road? What has changed? I'm looking out for the taxpayers in David Krause.
Well,
That's my opinion now. I'm not frustrated with
Mr. Chair,
nobody.
To his point, I can tell you what's changed. What's changed is we have seen 3 months of job performance that's been exceptional. That's what's changed.
I believe we go what we know, and David can hit the ground running. He knows how to write grants. He knows all about that. He knows everybody. To start a new, he's just doing a great job. Anybody that works with him closely you just can't say no, really.
And I'll concur before we take a vote. David's done a great job. I have no problem with that. The process is what I'm against, but my opinion is what it is.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I call a question.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Was that unanimous?
Hey, I'm sorry.
Joe, go ahead.
I missed
Huh?
that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The next item I have.
I want to know what the vote was.
Just for the record, Jim, that was voted 4-1.
Yeah.
I didn't hear.
4-1 vote.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, the next item I have is a discussion and requesting some direction on the redistricting process. This is something in the charter circa 2012. The charter at 2.2 requires the appointment by the Board of County Commissioners of an 11 to 15 member committee that will render recommendations for redistricting based on the 2020 decennial census. It is important for the board at this time to begin thinking about these appointments and for you to determine whether you want 11, 12, 13, 14, or 15 members, since the charter leaves that up to you. Once you determine how many members, certainly staff can facilitate, getting these people assembled and reduced to a motion so you can make the appointment all at one time. They do have to have their first meeting on or before May 15th, which, while that sounds far away, is not far away at all. We expect the census data for the legislative redistricting at the state level to come down around April 1st. That's not a hard deadline. It could be, after the end of the first week of April. But it's going to be a process that, while it will take all the way until September, that will go very, very quickly.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead, Commissioner.
this is my 4th redistricting. And what the statute says is, each one of us should have as close to 20% of the population as possible. You're not going to get 20% for each county commissioner, but some are going to have 19.5 and some might have 20.1. So once the census get back, that's the first thing you look at and see where that percentage is out of kilbad. If it's in Kilda, there's no need to redistrict based on the statute. Here is what happened. Matt Cruz would be the biggest and have the most involvement within the redistricting to anybody in this county. He'll take that data, look at the district lines now, say if we got the shift district line, the statute says what the boundary should be. He just can't say, well, here's the district line. It got to be a bona fide landmark for that district to go to. And then he make those scenarios, if Mr. Murphy got to give up 500 votes, and I got to get 500 votes, my district and his district do not touch. So that involves all five of us switching around a little bit. So it's going to be very important that and I think the less the merrier. If minimum 11, I've been thinking about this. I think each one of us should pick 2 members and let the chair pick 3. Then that give us 11 members to the Charter Review Commission.
Well, what if we all picked 3, and then if somebody fell out or couldn't make it or had to stop, we still have enough at 14? You know, I mean, last time with the charter, if we hadn't, we about run out of reserves, because others had different things they had to do, couldn't make meetings and stuff like that. So I'm just thinking if we done.
Right here.
Yeah. So if, that's just my suggestion. If we do 15, which would be 3 apiece, then if a couple fell out or 3 fell out, we still have 11, because it's 11 to 15.
Yeah, but if one fell out, the statute say it got to be an odd number. So if one fell out of 15, you're back into an even number.
Yeah, you're right about that.
But the same thing on 11. One drops off 11, you're back at even number 2.
Yeah.
Unless you, each commissioner appoint an alternative, an alternate. So if one of their members drop out, they have an alternate to put back in the place.
Joe, what's your legal opinion? I mean, suggestion, or do you have one?
Well, any committee is going to have a quorum requirement. So even if if you have 15 and you've got at least 8 present, you're probably going to have a quorum to go forward. So unless they fully drop out, in which case you'll have to reappoint. The charter says any number between 11 to 15. And this is, as the gentleman said about the water districts and everything, it's a policy decision. It's what do you guys feel comfortable with? Now, understand this is a little different in that none of these people can be county employees. None of these people can be elected officials. The charter is very clear about that. And they will be they're even more independent, as I read the charter, than Charter Review was. And so you're going to appoint these people, they're going to go off, but they're going to render recommendation to you in September. You're going to let them know in writing if you have any problem with their recommendations. They'll give you another shot in October. You still can reject that. So it's a little different from the charter in that you can ultimately reject what they present.
So does it have to be an odd number?
It does not necessarily have to be an odd number. It's better for it to be an odd number because, again, you don't run the risk of tie votes. But again, a 15-member board that only has 8 people present could have a 4-4 tie. So, I mean,
Go ahead,
it can always happen.
Here, and the other thing, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
The other thing that have been made sure this happened in the past, that we keep the school board members and the county commission in the same district. You almost got to do that to have something that's not out of whack. So the school board, everybody wonder why Keith Hudson in my district have that little cut in there is to keep Keith Hudson in the district, in his district. If we were to run that straight, he would have eliminated him being a school board member in the district that he served. Mr. Foreman, once that committee, going back, are you going to represent as counsel of that committee?
No, sir, because
Or you going to get someone outside?
Right. The charter says that not an employee or an elected official can't even serve on the committee, so I wouldn't feel comfortable providing counsel under those circumstances. I think, believe it or not, as political as it is, the charter's drafted in such a way to make it very apolitical. So there's really no political consideration until the very end. What you're going to want to do is identify these people and get them with an expert who deals with these specific issues. These are highly related to constitutional rights, voting rights, things that can get you sued in an instant. And so we want to make very sure that while these are lay people, they're getting really, really good guidance. So that's going to be an important thing.
So what does David do? Go to Neighbors and Gibbons and have them go under this direction to seek? I mean,
Yeah.
I'm just saying, you know what, your name was presented in the last, with the CRC.
Yes,
So
and I'm
you're
not
not
gonna-
giving no direction who to go find or nothing like that.
They're
You're out
gonna-
of it after.
They're going to my recommendation is going to be go get an expert, and that's it.
Commissioner Webb.
But you can't, go, I'm sorry.
Go finish.
Tim Ron don't never finish.
Any attorney is about like any carpenter. Some of them know how to carpenter, some of them don't. So they're gonna have to know the concerns of this county so they can guide that committee in the proper way.
Mhm.
Because if it ends up where the percentages are basically the same, there's no redistricting needed. Only thing the statute says is close to 20% is possible by
That's
each commission.
That's correct. It can't be perfect. So and that is a recommendation they could come back with in September.
Yeah.
We don't recommend you change anything, but you have to go through the process.
Yeah.
I do want to address the school board issue. Historically, the school board has just taken whatever y'all have done and adopted it. And I would expect that to be the case. And so I think when we talk about the concerns of the school board, that's something that this committee can certainly tune into is, do we need to pay attention to what the school board's doing? Historically, we definitely have. So again, the purpose of having this on the agenda tonight, to make you very, very aware of it, because it's coming very quickly. Go ahead and start identifying some people and let us know, do you want to be at a 11, 13, or 15 as we move forward so we can start organizing?
Mr. Chairman, two things. As far as appointing the committee, we've done it. We just did it with charter review. Why not just do the same thing? You wind up with 15 members, it's done. I do want to address the inmate population in District 4 in light of lawsuits that have occurred since last redistricting, because if we don't count those, then we certainly could run the possibility that it's not going to be just a leave it alone scenario.
Mm-hmm. Well, Jefferson County, I think you guys may remember a couple of years ago, Jefferson County got into a bad situation because they had all their prisoners in one district, which meant that district had a lower representational nexus. The representational nexus is I represent people who can vote me out.
Mhm.
Well, if you're representing prisoners, they can't vote you out.
Yeah.
And so you actually are representing fewer people, which means the people in your district have more political voice than the people in the other 4 districts.
How did the Supreme Court rule on that?
Well, there's various ways that gets handled. Okay. So one of the ways that gets handled is you take your prison population, 2,000 some odd people, you put them over here to the side. Then you look at the county and you draw your lines, and then you take 20%, you just sprinkle them around the county, because it doesn't matter where they're situated, because there's no representational nexus. The reason you have a district is because to establish the representational nexus. And the federal courts have said that's perfectly fine. As long as you count them, which you will do by spreading them around to all 5 districts, it still works fine.
Well,
The
that's
issue with that is you're going to take about
that's okay.
2,000 people out of one district, which, as you indicated, Commissioner, when you have a big shift in one district, the only way to fix that is to shift every other district. So if that's the way the expert, again, advises the committee to go, you're going to see a drastically different map.
And Joe, you explained to me this morning when me and you were talking that once they come back with their first recommendation, then if us as a board of 5 have a question or disagree or what have you, we have to make that suggestion or complaint, if you want to call it, in writing.
Yes,
public
sir.
Record back to that
Yes,
group.
sir. So it would have to sort of be the form of a board resolution. Hey, we looked at the map. We don't like where you put this line. We don't like where you put that line. I mean, again, that's a reason why I'm going to have to draft that for you guys. And then they have a month to address those concerns and bring it back.
Then it goes back to that board, yeah.
Yes, sir.
Just to keep it transparent as we can. I just don't want the county to have to go through what they did the last redistricting.
Understood, sir.
Okay. So, recommendation, 3.
You got 2.
3 apiece.
Comment.
Oh, go ahead.
I think you got some comment.
Public comment.
You got 2 public comment.
Yeah. I think one of them is Stu. You want to speak on this too, Stu? No? Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Sylvester Warren, 832 Northeast Richardson Terrace. My concern, I heard Commissioner Murphy bring up the fact that the committee review, that was the charter review, I'm sorry, charter review. We caught a lot of issue with that charter review. They were trying to change, go to at-large voting, and we feel that they were trying to unseat Commissioner Williams. There's a federal lawsuit out there, and I just want it to be set as precedents as we deal with any redistricting, that federal lawsuit continues to protect District 1 and that it get laid on the table first. Anybody on the committee knows about it, and that everything moves from that point forward, so nothing happens to District 1 as far as representation in single-member voting districts.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, Spencer.
Did you have one? Did you have a card? I don't know. I thought I saw somebody else walk up there.
No.
Okay.
And to Mr. Warren's point, that's another issue that comes up in the Voting Rights Act in terms of minority political voting power. Even if you don't have a majority minority district, which District 1's not actually a majority minority district, there is an obligation in the redistricting process to keep that voice together. So that, you know, even though they're only 30% of District 1, the Black community has a stronger voice in District 1 because they're a higher percentage in District 1. So but again, these are things that an election expert, an election law expert, voting rights expert is going to be able to counsel your committee on, so that when you get that recommendation, it's not unconstitutional right out of the box, right? They're going to bring you something good.
Yeah, you know, it's amazing how that changes. In 1982, my district was 66% predominantly Black. Now it's 45%. And I'm still winning.
Do we need to do this in a motion, or can we just?
I would like a motion to set the number of members.
So moved.
I make a motion to set it at 15.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. So each commissioner will do 3, is that correct? 15? Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Oh, this time we're gonna take a 5-minute break, or 2 or 3 minute break.
I appreciate that.
Hey,
You got a flatter side of a pizza.
Todd got a earful tonight, didn't you?
Oh, yeah. Board, at this time, if you would, I'm going to allow Mr. Warren to speak for a few minutes here. He's agreed to speak for the whole crowd. I think we owe him this opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Commissioner. Mr. Chairman, I really appreciate it. I just want to hand you, councilmen, commissioners, and the clerk. You ain't got to read it.
Okay.
Just information as to some of the things I'm going to be speaking about. Sorry. So I just want to say a few things in way of introduction. I'm here tonight not to beat up on you guys, despite some of the rumors that may be out there. I'm not here to upset you. I'm not here to push back on you. I'm not here to frustrate you or name call you. I'm only here asking that this board potentially be a partner with the issues that we have going on in our community and the issues that we have going on with law enforcement and the issues that I think that we all should be concerned about that's taking place right now. I have a sign. And it says, "Am I next?" And it deals with an awful situation by law enforcement, the K9, this dog being sicked on him. And I'm quite sure that y'all going to hear about some of the things that some people can't comment because of lawsuits against the county and also the sheriff's department. And saying that, I know some people are going to say, "Sylvester, what do you want us to do? We're just the county commissioners. We can't control the sheriff, and we can't make him do a citizen review board. Have you talked to the sheriff about a citizen review board?" And my answer to that is yes. I spoke to the sheriff several times. And many of you all who know the sheriff, he's arrogant, he's hard to get along with. You can't tell him nothing, he knows it all the times. And I've asked him, and he's refused. He's dug his heels in on it. I even talked to him back when Deputy Brewinger punched a handcuffed kid, pulled him out the backseat of a car and punched him in the head. And the sheriff tried to get me to see how it was okay that a handcuffed kid got punched in the head by a deputy. And I disagreed with it. And so, though you can't regulate the sheriff, you can ask the sheriff to be a partner in doing the right thing and helping to establish a citizen review board for more transparency and more accountability. There's options. The county commissioners have things in their toolbox, in my opinion. They control the sheriff's budget, and they also can ask the sheriff to be a partner, set up a board, just like you all do the jailhouse. You all own a jailhouse. You all partner with the sheriff to run it. So there's things that we can ask the sheriff. I know we can't demand him to do anything, but I think that if we use all of our efforts and our abilities to bring him to the table, I think he would be willing to do it. And I think it's worth it to the community, to the voters who vote for you guys, no matter what district you're in. This happens too often in the Black community, and all of y'all have Black constituents. And I think we can do it. I think if we partner together, I think this is a reasonable ask to come to the county commissioners and say, "Hey, let's see how we can craft this. Let's see how we can do it. Time is of the essence. I don't think we can continue to delay this, because if it's a dog being sick on a board today, it's probably a bullet tomorrow." And so we have real concerns, and I wouldn't be standing before you. And let me say this, and I'll let y'all ask questions, or y'all can sit me down. But the sheriff is a liability. The way that he runs his department is a liability. It's going to continue to be a liability to the county and to the sheriff department. One, if you look at the paperwork, you will see that he has field training officers that have use of force convictions on their record. George Floyd, knee on his neck, that was a field training officer flexing and peacocking in front of his rookies. what you see with Bruinger, who finally was forced to resign, what you see with this dog bite, David Harvey, and what you see with Latimer, all those guys are field training officers, and they all have use of force on their jacket. And we, as a county and as taxpayers, are paying $15 extra per shift to these field training officers to train new cops to be bad. I can't live with it. I hope you all, as elected officials, can't live with this type of structure that the sheriff has, and a huge liability to the taxpayers in this community. What can we do? Chairman, talk to me.
Well, at this time, you know, he's an elected official, and we can definitely talk to him. We can try to work with him, and I understand where you're coming from on this. But there again, at the end of the day, he's an elected official. He's accountable to the citizens of Columbia County.
Yeah, he's elected, Chairman, but his budget ain't elected. He's elected, but I think we have other tools in the toolbox to say, hey, we're setting up this board. We're asking to be on it. Does he really want to face the political potential suicide to himself to say, hey, here we're trying to do something positive. We're just trying to shake your hand and you don't want to shake our hand. Does he really want to go that route?
Mr. Warren.
Yes, sir.
We are in a unique situation. That's the first time I've seen that. Made my stomach turn up. But we are in a bad situation. We understand your concern, the community concern, but to sit here tonight and elaborate with you on what we think or what we're going to do, we can't do that. Our counsel tell us that because we've been sued too.
I know.
And anything we say publicly can be used against us when we get caught. Am I right, Mr. Attorney? Yeah. So I share your concerns very much, but I have to be careful, as you say, what I say. The sheriff is an elected official. He runs the sheriff department, but as you see, we are in the boat with him now. And I don't like to be in the boat with nobody that can't swim.
Right. With all due respect, Commissioner Williams, I don't want to get into the aspect of the lawsuit. I just want to get into the aspect of you all communicating with the sheriff about the need. Let me ask it this way. Do anybody disagree with the need for a citizen review board?
If I understand a community review board, when there is a disagreement or something that had happened, it goes to that board for clarification.
Correct.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Mr. Witt.
I just have questions. Who decides the makeup of the board? What's the board's power? What they can and can't do? I mean, you know, I'm not opposed to the concept, but I need to know more.
Is it like just an advisory board? In other words, instead of getting complaints from all over the county, you would gather those up and say, hey, we have problems with this or we have problems with that. It's kind of like an informational board that lets him know that him or whoever that we have some complaints about this. It's like us. We go out and talk to people. So we get it every day. We don't have a board, but we got everybody here every 2 weeks. So we have the luxury of being able to see the people.
Right.
Whereas he doesn't have that like we do. You know, we're in front of people every 2 weeks. They can come tell us how bad we are or how good we are. So it would be like an advisory committee like that would say, hey, our you know what I mean?
Right. So in the United States, there's 3 popular models, right? And so you have one model is just strictly policy model, right? Well, that particular board, it goes in and looks at the policy of the sheriff department and to see whether or not there needs to be any policy changes. That's one form of citizen review board or citizen advisory board. Then the second model is one that's made up of citizens and people with law enforcement background, and it focuses on policy and it also focuses on complaints. And then you have a third model in this nation, which focuses just primarily of citizens, and it does the reviewing of the complaints that's filed by the citizens that sometimes slips through the crack from the administration. So there's 3 popular models that exist in this country, and those are the 3, and that's how they somewhat function. I don't know whether or not that went into a whole lot of detail to Mr. Witt's question, but those are the 3 popular models in this nation.
but they're all advisory in nature.
So they make recommendations to the sheriff, and sheriff and I had a conversation, and he was all wee-weed up about whether or not the citizen review board that I wanted, whether or not it would have subpoena power. Well, I'm not asking for subpoena power. You follow me? I'm asking for the citizens to be heard, extra level of transparency. There's a huge disconnect and distrust between the Black community and law enforcement back from slavery, sicking dogs on people doing civil rights. And so that hadn't been healed. And I think a citizen review board will help that to heal and cause things like this from happening. This happened back in October. We just found out about it now here in February. If we had a citizen review board, we would have known about this in October. So this would be a plus to this community, not a negative. I found nothing sinful, nothing immoral, and nothing negative about a citizen review board. I can think of no reason in this world why anybody wouldn't be in favor of it. How we get it done may be a question, but to be in favor of, I think everybody should be, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't think any of us, I don't oppose it, but I would like to see the makeup,
And I-
get some more information on how it would,
I'm sure all of us will ask, we'll ask if the sheriff, we don't have a problem asking the sheriff if he wants to do it or what.
Yeah, that would be a great start. Asking the sheriff if you want to do it. We can do a workshop with the sheriff.
Yeah.
Get some.
let me ask you a question. I know Monday night I was listening to the Lake City Council meeting, and I guess they're looking into the same thing of doing an advisory board. Maybe it could be one board for both departments. That's what I would see, with just one board.
Yeah,
because law enforcement is law enforcement. They all work together. So it could be
I'm not opposed to that, Commissioner Hollingsworth. I just want to get something out there so that, my community, predominantly Black community, can build trust with the law enforcement. And let me tell you about building trust with law enforcement. A lot of crime will get solved if there's a better relationship between law enforcement and the community, right? When there's no good relationship, there's not going to be any good information. No information in this case, because when you start doing people like this in the community and nothing happens and it seems like it's trying to get swept under the rug, we're like, okay, if this is the ball game you want to play, then we got a ball game we're going to play with you too. And so it doesn't help nobody. It only hurts.
And I will say that back in the day that you and I got together on some things because I was a bail bondsman.
Right.
And there were actually, I think you got a gun recovered at some point. I don't remember exactly.
Right,
what
right.
happened, but,
And then, I think down the road, you ended up hiring Winston Warner. He came by my office twice a week with all the different warrants. And I would just call the guys on the telephone and just walk them into my office and send them out to the jailhouse just on phone calls and get them turn themselves in. Cooperation is just, we can get it done. We can heal the divide by working together as a community and trying to resolve some of this fear of law enforcement versus protection and serve.
Well, it does not help. It does not. This board is willing to ask the sheriff. Would he be interested in forming a citizen advisory board? And we can't make him.
Yes, sir.
But we can ask him.
Yes, sir.
If he would entertain that idea.
Yes, sir. All right. Thank you, Chairman, for giving me this opportunity to speak.
We'll definitely work on that with your help.
All right. Thank you, Chairman.
Make it.
Yeah, 2 minutes, I promise you.
Yeah.
In the environment we live today, this thing about defund the police, which I think is outrageous and ridiculous. See, these kinds of issues can be avoided with a citizen review board. What we're talking about is accountability. Leonard Johnson, okay? And the accountability reduces policy violation and baseless allegations. When you have people in your community on board with reputations or looking at investigations and that kind of thing, you're not going to have those kind of issues. It's going to reduce that tremendously. But when you don't have that and you have only one viewpoint being presented, when there's a lack of trust, as he was talking about, Sylvester there, and fairness and transparency, all of those issues boil to the top. And then the way to handle it always come out badly. So why not be proactive and prevent that kind of thing from happening by having a citizens review board? And you're going to get great cooperation out of community that has the respect and confidence of their law enforcement. And citizens review board do all of those things for you in your community. So I would ask you to strongly recommend to the sheriff to consider a citizen Review Board for those reasons, if it's just for those reasons alone. Because we live in a community and it's a small, close-knit community, and we kind of know each other around here. So we have to have that interdependency about law enforcement. I want to count on law enforcement. I want to respect them. I want to involve them in my community. But that'll never happen if you think there's a great injustice or unfairness. And that's what Sylvester is talking about. And you can step in and say, hey, Sheriff, we're going to be proactive with this. We want you to form a citizen review board for the reasons that I just gave. And I think every one of you would say, yeah, let's do that. And it reduces this idea of liability, suits and complaints being filed, because you've got a citizen review board that looked at that. So what's the basis of your suit? And I would think the court would probably smile favorably upon that. Listen, we've had a whole citizens review board to look at this. And so what's the basis if you bring in this suit, which is probably going to reduce a reward by a jury or whatever the case might be. So it's just so many positive to have that kind of thing in place here in this community. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lenore.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I wish that we had got this on an agenda, because once again, here we are having a discussion about, something that pertains to the sheriff's office, and it's not on the agenda. He's not here. I'm glad that discussion is being had, but I do think this needs to be put on an official agenda so he knows about it and he can be here. I also think that, it's imperative. We can say, yeah, let's form one, but without his buy-in, it's useless. So the dialogue needs to be between the citizens and the sheriff more than it needs to be between the citizens and us. I think you've heard our reaction tonight. We're open to the idea and we're not unfavorable, but it's imperative that the sheriff be involved. And I think it needs to be an agenda item where it's noticed, and anybody who wants to come speak can. I think that's the only way to handle it.
Sounds great. Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
To Commissioner Witt's point, the board is always free to adopt resolutions that reflect the attitude or beliefs of the board. That resolution would have to be on an agenda. If the board so directs, I can work with Mr. Warren to talk about what his vision for this board might be, reduce it into a resolution, place it on an agenda, and then you can decide if you want to support that or not. And
I think that'd be a great idea.
Yeah, that'd be a good idea.
Yeah. So do you need a motion for you to do that, or?
No, sir, I'll take that as a consensus.
Okay, thank you.
Great.
Okay, Commissioner Murphy. Further consideration of pay adjustment information, technology support for property appraisal.
Yeah, myself and David, after the previous meeting, I had discussion with him. My interpretation was what I read. I think, not to put words in your mouth, Commissioner Ford, I think David told me that y'all had a conversation. You interpreted it as well as I did. And my simple point is here, I'm not against anybody getting pay raises or nothing like that. I want to make that very, very clear. But prior to this portion of the previous agenda, we did away with stipends. Then all of a sudden we come back in here at the end, and then we want to add monies into certain departments for pay escalation. Now, I'll be the first to say, I'm not going to say names or nothing. This department, without a doubt in my mind, deserves more money. My biggest thing is that as I'm sitting here reading it right now, proposal is not to impact employee current pay, not address property appraiser adjustments. So that told me that we're not making no adjustments, but I had to reach out to my great friend over here, and she interpreted it that way. I questioned, but I simply am asking the board that was this your interpretation or was it not? And just because my point is as simple as this. Budget time, in my opinion, there was a lot of great department heads that come forth up here, employees and what have you, and ask and give us bona fide reasons why they should have an increase in salary. But unfortunately, the way the budget was this year, we were able to do so. And in my opinion, that's a spit in their face. One way we just did away with stipends, and then we come in here. If I interpret it, I apologize to the board. I'm sorry, I interpreted wrong, but I would definitely ask us to come back to a vote, because I'm definitely going to vote no on item 5. And, not putting words in anybody's mouth, that's just my opinion. And, because if I was some of the employees in the, county, that if we go forth with this, that came forth on budget time and asked for salary adjustments, how could I tell them no if I supported this? Because I'll assure you, the majority, no, I ain't gonna say every one of them that come forth and asked for adjustment was bona fide. These people deserve it, but unfortunately, the money wasn't there, and that's just my input on it.
Mr. Chair. Well, it's written like I interpreted, and I think I made the comment that if we want to do away with stipend, we figure out what that stipend amount would be. Instead of calling it a stipend, if somebody getting $10,000 to do something, then you adjust that pay as that now for this one time. That means we don't steady going into that same employee, you get another stipend. But for now, since we have been doing it, that we equal that out to in a pay raise to take up for the stipend, because we want to do away with word stipend. And David done exactly what I thought he was gonna do.
And he did, and I agree with you, Ron, 100%.
Yeah, I agree with what he done, the way he handled it, because this is exactly how I anticipated that to work out.
But that adjustment wasn't in process, correct, David?
Well, that's what started the whole procedure, was the property appraiser approached us and said, we want to pay your IT staff to do our property appraisal thing. That's what started the ball rolling. The response was, well, we want to get rid of stipends. So we got rid of stipends and we said, if we're going to do that, we need to make all the employees whole. Since they hadn't received it quite yet, part of the motion was to include that so that everybody was made where
What do
the
you mean
intent
not
was.
quite yet? They haven't received it.
Right,
I mean, you had discussion hours upon hours.
right. I mean, well, one, it's not effective till April. But again, that was the issue that brought the whole thing forward, was whether to pay the IT department to handle the property appraiser's work. So I felt, and that's why it was part of the motion, that had to be something that the board had to approve or not approve before we move forward.
But as I read what I read to you and as I interpreted to you, you agreed with me. I can see how this is, your exact words to me was, I see how you interpreted that way, because it says property appraiser adjustments, not, we're not dealing with it. And you're out of your mouth, you told me that the reason, the board, you brought this situation to us, and we had a good discussion about it. We
Right.
took no action on it. That's dead in the water. But.
And you're right, it says, in making people whole, those people that basically had an adjustment would have it. But in the motion, it said, the board had to decide, do you want to give it to them or not? And in the motion, it was included to give it to them. So if the board wants to take action, they would have to vote to rescind that section of the previous board action.
I agree.
But we gave it to them in the form of adjusting their pay and not calling it the stipend anymore.
Correct.
All right, which is what the intent of the board was, and you don't want stipends anymore for the mere fact of what we're about to face with $15 an hour minimum wage.
Yeah.
Because $15 minimum wage is coming and the floor is gonna be 15, and everybody's gonna have to be adjusted up. And that's something we gotta start thinking about now, because that's millions and millions of dollars of impact in our budget. So for that reason alone, get rid of all the stipends.
And that is what the board adopted, was to get rid of some of the.
That's what we did.
So somebody moving forward, if they were to say, I want a stipend, the answer is, board policy is we don't have stipends. We don't do supplemental pay.
But you could adjust their pay so if the IT department wants to pay the county, $10,000 extra dollars for this guy to do IT, and you as the county manager thinks, number one, he can do that as part of his job responsibilities and not interfere with what he does with the county, and he deserves that much. Maybe he don't deserve 10, maybe he deserves 5. I don't know. Give him a raise. Hey, you're doing this, here's your raise.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way. No more stipends, because we're about to face a mess in the next couple of years.
Right. Absolutely.
The request I had to David was, he needs to do away with the hourly pay and do a just salary pay
Right, and that's one of the things I do.
That's what I'm saying. If you're gonna raise him up, I'm okay with raising him up, but I want it done in a salary.
Right. That's one of the things I want to bring to the board is to convert your, I guess, network specialist into the IT director that he really is and pay him a salary rather than allow him to earn.
Do we need a motion?
Well, hang on a second. Doesn't rate of pay have something to do with whether you're considered a salary employee or hourly employee? Doesn't you have to reach
It's not so much
threshold?
rate of pay as responsibility. Do you supervise people? Are you in a position that requires you to be like a department head? IT specifically can be exempted and be salaried. My recommendation would be to make him the IT director, which is what we all consider him anyway. Make him salaried, and then you don't have to worry about whether he's earning overtime or not. Currently, you're paying him approximately $70,000 a year. Now, his salary isn't that, but with overtime and everything else, you've been paying him roughly $70,000 a year. So in comparison, the IT director for the city makes $76,000 a year. So if you make him salaried, you don't have to worry about the overtime implications. And it's really not a major impact on your budget.
And in this situation, the money's coming forth from the property appraiser's office.
Yeah, the money's
I
in
get
the
that.
budget now.
Right, I mean, this one particular raise was from the property appraiser, but I'm
Right.
saying for the past several years, you've been paying him $70,000 a year.
I understand that. Yeah, and that's fine. I get all that. But here we are again, in the middle of a budget cycle.
Mhm.
We're making adjustments out of your mouth. You shared this with me. And there's, in my opinion, and I hate to keep using IT, but he's the one in the position here, and it's nothing that Todd's done wrong. He's a great IT guy. I'm not fighting against any person. I'm just saying, we're covered on the overtime. It's a said deal, but it's a spit in the face for every single one of these department heads to come up here and ask for money for themselves and their people. And we sat there and told them, no, there's never going to be no money available. And all of a sudden, $8,000 pops up and it's available. It's a spit in our employees' face. That's Tim Murphy's opinion. And I'll assure you, they're going to come in groves. And I don't blame them. I would too.
Well,
me and Mr. Kirby's had this kind of conversation. We need to take care of our people, and then just like Toby said, you talk about $3-4 million here. We got to start. But the initial startup is going to be $3-4 million. You can bet on that. And we better start looking at this thing a little bit closer. It's not a feel-good game we're doing up here. It's the taxpayers' dollars that we're looking at here.
Mhm.
Okay, but are we correct that the money, if our IT director doesn't do it, the same department, the property appraiser, will go hire someone else for $8,000 if ours doesn't handle? I mean, it's the same money. It's all the same money in the same pool. We just handed it to somebody else, probably doing it cheaper than the property appraiser could get it done by a contractor or whatever. So aren't we really really saving money that way? Because it seems like to me
No,
that
the full money's being that the property appraiser had is coming to us. That was his budget,
Right.
$9,000. I'm not arguing the dollar figure. I think the guys in IT deserve a bit of it. I'm just saying, guys, we need to pay attention. And here we are in the middle of the budget cycle. We've adjusted this thing. We just approved a review or a redistricting. That's a non-budgeted item. We budgeted a penny for that, Dave?
No, it was
Not
not
a penny.
budgeted.
How much is it going to cost? Nobody in this room knows.
That's
I
correct.
guarantee you're going to spend 50, 60 grand on it. You watch what I tell you.
So what's your
I'm not
motion,
surprised.
Commissioner Murphy?
My motion is simply just on the previous vote. I say no adjustments to anybody at this point.
So we just
That
tell him
money
to
stays
work.
where it is. They're still able to make their overtime.
Does he take over the job position of property appraiser, of their IT guy?
Whatever our county manager directs he or she to do. I'm not trying to give direction to an employee. I'm just trying to state the simple fact there. And guys, believe me, y'all go another way. I'm not mad at nobody. I'm just saying, I'm the one, and I know y'all guys have had the same calls too, if you're willing to say it or not, but I know I've had the department heads call me. you know, and I know what's fixing to come down through that door right back there. And I'll support them 100% if it goes that way. I just say leave things as they are, and come budget time, we'll adjust the salaries needed to be. It's our job to find the money at that time to do it.
I-
I didn't say everybody, I said whoever comes through the door. We're gonna have to already, Stu. I mean, I'm not getting conversation. We got $15 an hour thing. No, we're not gonna distort it. I'm talking about this issue right here.
Mr. Chair, that's the point I was gonna make. I get what Commissioner Murphy is saying, that, you know, this may trigger other department heads to come up and ask for more, but the simple fact is, we're gonna be paying more with the $15 an hour thing, so they're gonna get it. I mean, so it's a problem we got, you know, we're gonna have to address. So I don't fear them coming up in droves asking for more, because we're gonna have to go down the whole pay scale.
Well, I don't fear them,
and
but I
adjust
support
this.
them.
I mean,
But we're gonna have to do it as we budget it. And my point is, this money is already budgeted in this budget.
And it's all county money.
Exactly. I mean, we're just
city
basically
money.
moving it from one
It's
side
not
to
city
the
money,
other.
it's all county money.
Oh, okay, we have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second? The motion is that we don't give the IT guys the raise to take over the property appraiser's IT work.
Adjustment, not race, adjustment.
We don't. Do I have a second? Okay, motion died from lack of second.
At this
Okay.
point, the first item is Huntington Glen, and I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Kirby.
We have 3 contracts for consideration for this board tonight. The first one is project number 2020-11 Southwest Huntington Glen. We did receive 5 bids for this project. John C. Hip Construction Equipment Company was low at $146,133. Recommended motion. Award bid and contract to John C. Hip Construction Equipment Company, project number 2020-11 in the amount of $146,133.
So moved.
second.
Got a motion by Commissioner Hollingsworth, second by Commissioner Witt. All in favor?
Olino 2020-CC Olino to Itchtuttony Trail. This is our bicycle trail from Olino to the Itchtuttony River. On January 7, 2021, the board awarded this to Terra Green LLC, 2-year agreement from the date of agreement of $875 per cycle. Recommended motion approve Olino to Itchtuttony Trail, contract from Terra Green LLC.
Recommend approval, motion 2020-CC, Alina to East Dutton Trail Maintenance.
Second?
Have a motion and a second. All in favor?
And the final one, Mr. Chairman, is bid number 2020-AA. We received 2 bids. Jenkins Painting at $304,547, Emerald Coast, $429,780. This is your annual restriping. Recommended motion, award Jenkins Painting, number 2020-AA in amount of $304,547.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion by Commissioner Williams, second by Commissioner Witt. All in favor?
Thank you, gentlemen.
That's right. You got to get that boy urinated.
So the next item is Sniffen and Smellman, PA. You've been employing them for several years now. They are one of your lobbying firms in Tallahassee that work with the legislature. The session is now gearing up, and you do have a couple items on the thing that we're looking at. If you have any other items you want us to look at, please let us know. This is their annual letter of engagement for a grand total of $27,000.
I move to approve FY 2020-21 letter of engagement with Sniffen and Spellman, PA for $27,000.
Second.
Got a motion by Commissioner Witt, second by Commissioner Murphy. Have a public comment on this?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. With your permission, I'll do 7 and 8 at once. This has been going on for some time. As you can see now, this is over $100,000 in lobbying fees. It actually is $107,000. Nobody knows what they do. I've been up here many years, year after year, asking what they do for a total of $107,000, which is not exactly chump change. I've spoken to environmentalists that spend time in Tallahassee dealing with the issues that are important to this county. They've never seen them lobbying for Columbia County. They've never seen them addressing the committees that have to do with the environment. There was a time when Mr. Scott said that he was going to report quarterly, I believe it was, on what we're getting for those fees. Because METS is $20,000 a quarter. That's a lot of money. The legislature is not in session for 4 quarters. So if it's only for the quarter that they're there, they're getting paid $80,000 for the quarter. The other one is $27,000. And my only thing is, you guys vote. I'm not telling you how to vote. But my question, if nobody can answer it, maybe you need to postpone it, is to find out what they do for us for $107,000 and come back with some things that Mr. Scott said that he was going to do and never did. I mean, you're just giving away the public's money here. And I see Mr. Hollingworth's got a frown on his head.
No, I'm just listening.
Yeah, he can't tell me what they do. I know that because he doesn't know. And I'm going to tell you something. I've been following them for years. I don't know. And I speak to people that follow them and nobody knows. And that's all I leave you with. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Look, based on, a lobbyist don't have to just lobby. A lobby do not have to lobby when the legislature in session. Committee meetings go on year round.
Yeah.
And that is the best time to lobby, during committee meeting. Because once it come out committee, 90% of the time, that recommendation passes.
And they lobby all year. I grew up in Tallahassee. I'll tell you, if you don't have a lobbyist, you're going to get caught by something you don't know coming down the pike. It doesn't mean that they go out and lobby and try to do something for us because we really don't need a whole lot done, but they do watch. And our lobbyist for my organization is a lot less money than that. That's a pretty good price. So, do what? Reports when something goes wrong. When they say we're going to put bail bondsmen out of business, they send us a report. But I've never seen a report from them. But
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
we've seen what they do firsthand. I mean, when you had $10 million in water projects up for vote, and we were with them arm in arm. They got us in. They got us in committee chairs rooms. We would have never got in. I mean, you got a senator that represents the Florida Keys. Probably don't even know where Columbia County is, but yet she's chairman of this water committee. We got in to see her. I mean, and we got in to see many people like that who were influential on that decision because we had these lobbyists. So I don't need a report. When we go to Tallahassee every year, I see it firsthand.
they're essential.
I agree with Commissioner Witt. I was with him. Me and him actually got into a couple of them on like 30 minutes notice. I mean, they said we need to see this one, and they made some calls and got us in there to see them. And without us making our presence known, we would have not. The money for Fort White, I mean, we lobbied for that. They got us in several different departments.
Mr. Chair, I don't think you can argue the money that we've got through legislative appropriations versus the $100,000 we spend to have a lobbyist help us with that. I think it's.
If you don't have them to navigate Tallahassee, you're a lost puppy. I can tell you that.
They meet you at the front door.
You're darn right. And they walk you in
everywhere you go.
offices.
Yep.
I haven't been there because I'm too new, but I know lobbyists.
Okay. Pardon me?
We need a vote.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, can I get a motion for,
So
We
moved.
already got it.
So
We
moved.
have a motion.
oh, I'm sorry, yes.
Second.
All four?
Aye.
Okay, let's move on to number 8.
Number 8 is the same thing with Met's husband in Dalton, PA. For a grand total of $80,400.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Okay, got a motion by Commissioner Williams, second by Commissioner Witt. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So next item, is that the right one? Yes. Utility late fee policy, amending policy. Basically, I give credit to Patrick Weaver. He noticed this when he was doing the utility billing. Some of our late fees are excessive when it comes to in terms of what the total bill is. And people who fall behind on our water bills can't seem to ever get caught up. We only have a handful of people that are residents that are on water. Given that COVID is here and things are very tough, we're recommending the board amend the policy to a 3% fee with a minimum of $2 and a maximum of $10.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, you got a motion by Commissioner Witt, second by Commissioner Williams, all in favor?
Purchase of radio management software. Basically, this allows Lawrence to maintain every radio that the city has, that the county has, that Excelsior Ambulance has, that all of our other subscribers have, without having to try and go out and find it. It reduces manpower time. It saves us money that way. He can reprogram things as things change, and it just really makes it so that we can maintain our radio system much better. And this is a budget amendment to place the money so that we can, and the contract, so that we can purchase the radio management software.
So move.
Second.
You got a motion by Commissioner Williams, second by Commissioner Hollingsworth, all in favor? Aye. Okay, CARES.
Then the last thing is the update on CARES. So, the grant award was $12,508,654. The way we covered it in terms of turning in expenditures, we turned in $12,508,654 worth of receipts for first responders. The majority of that was county fire dispatch and sheriff's office. There was $913,000 of that. That was the city's police and fire. So a grand total of that was $12,508. We turned in an additional $2,800,000 worth of receipts in case when they audit it, they say, yeah, your paperwork's not right, we're going to throw it out. We've got more receipts that they can cover. The additional receipts were from the business assistants, the individual assistants, Town of Fort White's first request, the Humane Society, and city's COVID-related expenditures. So that additional $2,800,000 are receipts recorded in the state's system in case we have an issue with our receipts. And again, this all had to be done by the first week of December. So we didn't have time to wait till the end of December. It had to be done by December 3rd if we wanted to get to $12.5 million. So having said that, you now have $12.5 million. You have committed $9,740,156. You can see business assistance ended up being $6,538,000. Individual assistance ended up being $1,255,709. This is based on the HDE system as of yesterday. So at the end of the day, you have committed $9,740,156 with a balance of $2.7 million that's not technically committed. Now, you had two outstanding requests you chose not to vote on because you wanted to see what our balances were. And that was the City of Lake City's request and Town of Fort White's second request. The reason you see 2.752,461 there is that is the balance of what they asked for, which was 3.6 million, specifically 3.66 million. And the amount that we actually used, which was 913,000. So what was left of that request was $2,752,461. And then Fort White did a second request for $73,991 to make their meetings be able to be virtual meetings, make their maps, their planning and zoning stuff available to people online. Currently, they're all old paper maps. And so it was kind of an upgrade to their IT system so they could be more virtual. So the question is the uncommitted balance of $2,768,000. How does the board wish to proceed with those funds? You can not do anything, or you can.
My thinking would be.
Oh, yeah.
A percentage.
The number from the City of Lake City balance in Town of Fort White exceeds the total amount of uncommitted by about $57,000. So at the end of the day, if you did both of those, you'd have to dig into your pockets $57,000 or the taxpayer's pocket.
I think we should give them a percentage of it. This is the going back several way back when Commissioner Nash asked the question, was it under the law to put the X asset amount on the jail, help pay for the jail?
Right, and it is
And
not.
I'm not thinking this board voted to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Am I right? Board, y'all remember?
Talking about sending the if I understood you right, Ron, you're saying that you're asking if we voted on the remaining amount to go towards the jail?
Go to the jail project.
We did do that.
You did.
Yep.
So that would take the 2,768,000 and move it towards the jail.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
why would we do anything with it?
You don't have to.
You're still under a state of emergency. The pandemic is still here. Why would you at this time do anything with it? Why would you not leave it there in case something comes up we need to spend it on related to the pandemic and address it when we're over this?
I agree.
Well, hopefully, this is where I get caught in a catch-20 scenario. One way or another, the state and local government gonna get additional dollars from this next CARES Act money. And I don't want them looking back and say, well, you all got 2 million plus there, they haven't done anything with, and it's just sitting in your budget.
But Commissioner, it's my understanding that we don't, that in their eyes, we don't, because we've claimed expenses for that. So that's in our budget, but we claimed expenses for it.
Right.
So,
We've
so that's,
submitted,
so we have, in their eyes, we have spent that whole $12 million.
Okay.
Yeah.
so that 12.5 went into your reserves and really you're paying for it out of your money.
So we can just
Not
keep
your
it
money,
in
but the
reserves.
taxpayers'
and-
money.
There's no reason to commit it. We're not broke on the jail. We,
Yeah, I agree with Commissioner Witt. Let's keep it in our reserves. And,
I mean, to clarify my statement, I do agree with putting it on the debt of the jail. I just don't agree with doing it while the pandemic is still here.
Okay. You got a motion?
there's no hurry. You need a motion?
You need a motion?
Sure.
I was gonna second.
I move that we put the 2.68.
I second.
2.786.
Yeah, 2.78 in the reserves and just hold it, just in case.
okay, I've got a motion by Commissioner Hollingsworth, second by Commissioner Williams, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Clarification, the 913 days, the city's receiving that.
We will, because we turned it into the state and the state accepted it as part of our thing, we need to pay them that. An additional 23,530 for their COVID expenses is also something that we had committed. So they'll get slightly under $1 million.
Okay.
Thank you guys very much. I really
David,
appreciate
do you
your
have
vote of support.
anything else to add before we?
That's all I have.
Commissioners, I have one thing to talk to y'all about and just get y'all's idea on it. I've had a few requests that we do one meeting a month in the mornings instead of afternoons. Like do one at 9:30 in the morning and one meeting month in the afternoons. What is y'all's thoughts on that?
Who made that request? Who made that request to do that?
Pardon me?
Who made that request to do so?
2 or 3 people have asked me about doing that.
Well, the only time that we got we used to do morning meetings, starting at 9 o'clock in the morning, and nobody showed up for years and years and years. So that's when we went to all night meetings, and then the best thing we ever done was change the meeting from 7 o'clock at night to 5:30. But nobody shows up in the morning time.
I've had that all, experience what Ron did. I think the Lord.
I don't have a problem with 9 o'clock meetings or whatever y'all decide. Doesn't matter to me.
I think in counties where you see that happening, they're not charter, and you had department heads in those morning meetings coming to give reports directly to the Board of County Commissioners. Yeah, I think that's what's happening. We're a charter county. We get the information straight from you. So I think the purpose of those morning meetings are just for that. If you go sit in Lafayette County, it's every department head in there giving monthly reports straight to the Board of County Commissioners. We're not set up like that. Thank God we're not set up like that.
And Mr. Witt, that's what we used to do. Back in the old days, everybody would come up that morning and we would award bids. We would award open bids at the board meeting and award them on those morning meetings.
You would judge them at the board meeting. Yeah.
You want that back too, don't you?
No, I don't. It wouldn't be anybody there. The staff people.
Okay, anybody else want anything to talk about?
Good.
All right, I call, any comment from the audience?
Again, thank you very much. I appreciate the vote of confidence.
Thank you. Congratulations, David.
Congratulations.
On your
Congratulations.
County manager position.
Taking us all to dinner. Steak.
All right, Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I thought this meeting was gonna be short.